Parasocial with Don Benitez. Glenn says, you disappeared forever. Yeah. Well, not really. It was less than a week. Fauna says, Daddy, you were gone for a long time, yeah. I'm back now. Lucas says, W, thank you. Sebastian says, I knew he was early. I came like 10 minutes early. Yeah, Corvus says, yo, hello again, Corvus. Sebastian says, I do wonder what Dawn is doing. I was making sure that the timer is functional. That's what I was doing before the stream just started. Bay says, why is no one talking? Because the stream hadn't started yet when you sent that message. Kerr says, sup Dawn, hello Kerr. Fuck says, Ola, hello, fuck. 5 Up says, Donnie boy, that's me. Bearded says, what are your thoughts about tortoises? They're pretty boring, but the Aesop fable is pretty cool though. Iris says, hi Donnie boy, remember me? No, I do not. Lewis says, hi, hello Lewis. Surfboard says, hey Don, hello Surfboard. Olive says, Lord Benitez here to reign over his kingdom once again, my lord. Yeah, yeah. Boxing says, hey Don, I've missed a few streams. Well, welcome back. Robert says, finally Dawn is streaming when I'm not asleep. What's up, Robert? Sun says, what's up, Big D? Hello, Son of Thor. Carlos says, how long since the last time you cut your hair? Since August 2025. Split says, hello, hello, Split. Peanut says, fuck me. I'm not gonna do that. Iris says, maybe this make you remember it's pronounced Iris even though it's spelled differently. I remember you saying that. Finn says, rate my profile picture. Well, the background design is cool. Just says, did the stream just start? Yeah, like 2 minutes ago. Lucas says, W, thank you. Boxing says, why are you so quiet? Is the microphone literally quiet? I could raise it. Jonathan says, hi, hello, Jonathan. Sun says, I'm here for the women who need a shoulder. Do any women need that? Surfboard says, your hair kinda grows slow. It does? Huh. Hello says, do you remember me? Yeah, I do. Peanut says, please fuck me, not even if you say please. Michael says, hold still and we can feed you sausage. I don't want sausage. Official says, hi Don. Hello, Official. Panda says that 9/11 is an inside job. No, it wasn't. Mulch says, do you remember me? No, I do not. Richard says, I'm trans, so I'm a she, her. I can see from your profile picture. Carlos says, are you planning to cut it or nah? Not for another few months. Thank you, Junior Mitz, for the 6-7 abomination. Kerr says, see Don, see ya Kerr. Jay says, my birthday is in 3 days. Well, happy early birthday, Jay. Millie says, hey bro, hello Millie. Scarp says, do you like it in the butt? No. Iwana says, read this, there you go. Harry says, can I get a shout out? No. No. Jack says, hi bro, hello Jack. Left says, bigga. Okay. W says, axolotls are cool. Yeah, they are. SJ says, blah blah blah, racial slur. Okay. Axel says, how is your day? Today is good. I ate a egg McMuffin today. Lee says, hello, hello Lee. Bethany says, lol, okay. Rupert says, hi, my dad is from Germany, but I am from America. That's cool. Kerr says, forgive me for leaving early, I don't mind. Kong says, do you remember me now? W says, I'm playing Minecraft with the axolotl skin. I love axolotls. Yeah, they're cool, but they're not that cool though. Top says, hi man, how you doing? I'm doing fine. Boxing says, yeah, raise the mic, you're quiet. Okay. 1 second please, as I raise my microphone a little bit. Oh yeah, it is lower than usual. Now it should be at the normal level. Carson says, can I get banned for 1 minute? No. Left says, bye. Life, I'm drunk. Please don't do that. Blend says, why Eyes Wide Shut is your favorite? Because I like the theme of lust. Lust is interesting. Thank you, Doctor, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Urban says, hi. Hello, Urban. Yesera says, what's your favorite animal, Don? The human. King says, are you okay? Yeah, I am. Man says, you gay? No. Jaden says, what are you doing? Reading chat messages. Thumpy says, remember me? Vaguely. Thank you, Doctor, for the second Mecha Chameleon thing. Progress says, am famous now, brother. You are? If you're talking about yourself, that's cool. Velocity says, hi. Hello, Velocity. Strong says, can you sub to me? No, that's stupid. Dur says, can I get banned, please? No, that's too much work. Man says, you need a boyfriend. No, I don't. Owen says, why are you so depressed? I'm not depressed. Pink says, hi. Hello, Pink. Luke says, what's with the music? What about it? I think it sounds good. EA says, who do you want to win the World Cup? Oh, I wanted the United States. Mister says, can I get a shout out? No. Shoutouts are stupid. Husker says, hello, hello. Husker. Kid says, did you know Jake LaMotta, your lookalike, beat Sugar Ray? No. I don't know those people. Boxing says, I like the background music today. Thank you. Surf says, I don't think I've seen you eat on... 1 second, please. On a live. Yeah, I don't eat on live. That's not professional. Ellis says, Skibbity Toilet Rizzler Party. Okay. Jennifer says, what would you do if I donated $500? I just say thank you many times and then move on. I'm nothing crazy. Philip says, hello. Hello, Philip. Gray says, okay. Crizzy says something. I don't know what that means, dude. MTB says, I hate this world. Why? Josiah says, who's your favorite soccer player? Messi. JX says, can say I play Fortnite? I don't want to. Saha says, should I do Laughing Disco Guys? I would like that because I like money. MTB says, this world is horrible, that's why. I agree, but there's still enjoyment to be had, though. Son says, Bethany invited me. Okay. Thank you, Saha, for the Laughing Disco abomination. F says, hi. Hello, F. Johnny says, is it true? What is true? Alfie says, Don, do you remember me? No. It's Vika says, aw man, Donita, don't like no sausage. No, I don't like hot dogs or sausages. Thank you, Blueberry, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Larry says, Don, do you like vintage cars by chance? Never heard of that. Sunny says, you're tough, thank you. Qwerty says, you are an Ambambanashi. What is that? Shane says, remember me? No. Thank you, Blueberry, for the stupid Mecha Chameleon thing. Yesra says, I love your streams, Don. Thank you. And thank you, Gold, for the press W thing. Max says, put some Subway Surfers in the back. No, it wouldn't look good because of my head in the middle of it. Mr. says, rate my profile. Charlie Kirk Hitler, I don't like that. Son says he's trying to say you're an abomination. No, I was just saying the gift was an abomination, not Saha himself. Viron says, do you believe in God? No, I do not. Peanut says pre-recorded. That's obviously not true. The Thing says, I am Cornholia. Okay. Alright. Bernard says, I'm gonna donate all my gems if this gets picked. I don't want your... Well, actually, I wouldn't accept a gym. That sounds like it could make money for me. Skiz says, do you like Stray Kids? No, I don't. Surfboard says, do the voice. Make a comment that makes me want to do it. Thumpy says, let's go. Don remembers me. Yeah, I do. Dusty says, have an amazing day, you too. Aziz says, where do you live, bruh? Somewhere in the United States. Thank you, SX for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Viron says, why you don't, man? What? Nice Sis says, hey Don, it's been a while. This is Nirvana. Oh, I remember that name. Thank you, Bernard, for the cat in a fedora. The Reddit cat. The two of them, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. It looks like you're a man of your word, because I remember you saying earlier that if I read your message, you would give me your gems. So that's cool that you're a man of your word. Gian says, hey Don, it's been a while. Hello, Gian. Thumpy says, Don is goated. Thank you. Byron says, why don't you believe in God? Because I haven't found a reason to. Thank you, Della Ma, for the stupid sunshine thing. Shane says, hey, it's Emily. Hello, Emily. Kong says, remember me? No. Justin Walker super chats, Adam Driver, Kylo Ren looking awe. I guess I do. I'm wearing black, gray, kind of vaguely similar face, yeah. Thank you, Justin, for the super chat. Timer extended. Corin says hi. Hello, Corin. Gamer says hello, bro. Hello, Gamer. Steak says, yo, am I an egg that misses your videos? Oh, well. You've made this video, though. Porma2 says, would you address me if I was an elephant? I would like to think so. Eli says hi. Hello, Eli. Viren says, you believe in God? No. Kiribou says, have an awesome day, everyone. Yeah. Oscar says, what's your G? What do you mean, G? Tornado says, chicken sandwich. I like those. EM says, hi. Hello, EM. Thank you, Bernard, for your 3 of those fedora cats. And this Mecha Chameleon gift. Thank you. Mustafa says, did you get the money for the PS5? I haven't bought it yet. Lucas says, have you seen Fight Club? And if so, do you like it? No. It seems like a pretentious movie. But Bernard says, I don't know how much money that was, but that was probably either like 10 or $5. Yeah, thank you for your gifts, Bernard. Is your name really Bernard? I don't know if if my name was that. But yeah, thank you for the gifts. Peanut says, have you ever audibly farted on stream? No. The Adventurer says, what's your favorite animal? The chimpanzee. Gray says, how do I know if my crush likes me? I searched it up on the internet. Not. Zero D says, tickle my feet and call me Pete. Look who it is. What? Alicia says, have you seen Spider-Man New Day yet? No, I don't have any plans for that. Uncle says, do you like Nigel F? I haven't heard of that guy. Ramon super chats, bro, if you can't show the hog, can you please stand up slowly and show us the huge outline? No. I am not showing my huge outline. Alma says hi. Hello, Alma. Al says banana. What about banana? But thank you, Ramon. Timer extended. Josh says, remember me? I remember your profile picture. What's up says, do you have any pets? Yeah, I have dogs. Zoom says, can I bring you to America? I'm already here. Rampage says, have you played Roblox before? Yes, unfortunately. Thank you, Coral Scout, for the Mecha Chameleon gifts. In Love says, cheeseburger. Okay. Cold Slayer says, hi Don, never mind the negative comments, you're my favorite streamer. Thank you, Cold Slayer. MJ says, do you remember me? No. Cheese says, KFC, okay. Lil says, hi. Hello, Lil. Random says, I'm collecting the Infinity Stones. Do you happen to know where the Power Stone is? Maybe in the Pentagon. Viron says, where are you from? Somewhere in the US, not gonna say. Olive says, Don, we'll write the great American novel one day. No, I don't like books that much. Tornado says, I'm still using the chinchilla profile picture. Yeah, you are. Thank you, Coral and D-Tom Gaming, for the gifts. Bernard says, my name is really Bernard, but I go by Bernie. but I'm way too lazy to change it. Oh, no problem. Bernie. Leo says, Kentucky Fried Children. Okay. Marlon says, LeBron or Michael Jordan? LeBron. Man says, do you like dingleberries? I don't know what that is. Is that slang for testicles? Luke says, how did you come up with the name Parasocial? Well, in my opinion, the reason why people watch streamers, like 99% of the reason, is because of parasocial relationships, so I thought the name was fitting. Julia says, hi Don, how's your day? Pretty good. I hope your day was good too, Julia. Panda says, posture. I don't care about my posture. In Love says, what's wrong with cheeseburger? There's nothing wrong. Fishy says, can we see you, dog? Sorry, no. Gian says, hey Don, it's 3:30 at night here. Can I sleep? Yeah, of course. Go to sleep. Thank you, Lori, for the 5 Mecha Chameleon gifts. Peanut says, I am a pedophile. If I love fart yacht CSAM. Child sex abuse material. Yes, you are a pedophile then. Kenzo says, you like doing these streams? Yes. Shane says, fried children is wild. Yeah, it is. Thank you, Keely, for the Uncle Alert gift. Keely Droge. Leo says, rate my profile picture. Oh, it's messy. That's nice. Robbie says hello. Hello, Robbie. Kai says hi. Hello, Kai. Warner says, I like porn. Okay. Dahlia says, what brand are those headphones? They are Logitech. Johnny says, hi, what your favorite geometric shape? I guess the square. Random says, hi. Hello, Random. Oh, Sin says, I peed in my mouth. Oh, that's really gross. Son says, put a cereal bowl on your head and cut it. Ramon has a thing for such a do. Maybe it would get me more money, but I don't care. Thank you, SH1, for the Press W gift. Joe says nut. No. Michelle says hi. Hello, Michelle. Ken says, I'm a horny man. Okay. Surfboard says, what is on your chicken sandwich? I've been liking the pimento chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A recently. Thank you, Sour Brothers, for the 6-7 abomination. Kayla says hi. Hello, Kayla. Toro says, how much money does Ramon have to give you for you to fulfill his requests? It would have to be in the, at least thousands. Ramon super chats, if you're looking for a second job, my cousin is in production and they're looking for a fluffer. It's mostly weekend and there is a pre-test. I'm not interested. And I don't even know what a fluffer is anyways. Timer extended. Ken says, I'm a horny man. Okay. Fishy says, do you sleep? Yeah, I do. Bernard says, all the gifts were equivalent to about $15. Well, thank you, Bernard, for the $15 in gifts. Turo says, should I stroke it? 1 second, please. I'm doing something. You should not stroke it. Jack says, me and OnBob agree. Who is that guy? Julie says hi again. Hello, Julia. Thank you, Ryder, for the Press W gift. And Ruby for the Laughing Disco Abomination. Colt says, do you like the Odyssey movie? I haven't seen it. Jake says, can you spit on my asshole? No. I don't know you. Artie says, hey, can I ask, do you get money for the gifts? Yeah. Every YouTuber does. Catherine says, bye. See ya, Catherine. Thunder says, remember me? No, I don't. Much says, rate my profile picture. It's pretty boring. It's just my face. The King says, if you go to Streamer University, what will you do there? stay in my room because I'm an introvert. Jose says, you remember me? No. Joe says, something. I don't know what that means, dude. Shane says, why are you extending the timer? That happens when people give gifts like this. Thank you again, Ruby. They want me to stream longer. That's why they send gifts. Rock says, hey Don, am I just not getting your streams, or are you not streaming for like 5 days? Why don't you go to my channel and figure that out for yourself? That doesn't need to be answered by me. Norbach says, still remember me? Yes. Thank you, Christine, for the plastic flower. Hey says, hey. Hey. L-Dog says, your dedication to streaming is mad respect. There's much more streamers more dedicated than me. Thank you, Not Dentist, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Way the Zombie says, figure easy shit out, sir. What? Jose says, you need to post shorts and vids. I don't need to. CJ says, daddy, caddy. Okay. SA says, keep it up. Thank you, SA. Rico says, Ronaldo or Messi. Messi. Thank you, Ballet, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Viron says, I love you. Thank you. Hey says, how are you? I'm fine. Play says, hi, remember me? No. Thank you, Rosalie, for the John Lennon cat. Surfboard says, gotta go, bro. See ya, surfboard. Ken Bob says, are you having an erection? Is my penis erect? I'm not gonna tell you that. Mr. Man says, you love men. I know I do. We are not the same. Thank you, Cassandra, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Brad says, who would you want to meet at VidCon? I don't know. No, I'm not really like a fan person. Thank you, Kai. For, excuse me. Kai says bye. See ya, Kai. Melon says hi. Hello, Melon. Span says big shot. Okay. It's me says, I watched this guy in 6 months go from 50 viewers to 400. What growth, he should be proud. I'm not proud for making brain rot. Luna says, rate my profile picture. That's wholesome. Eli says, are you black? No. Thank you, MZ, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Cold Slayer says, who would narrate your life if you had a narrator? I don't know. Who do you think I should have as narrator? Cat says Tar, okay. Zep says fake. What's fake? Randy says whip it Don, whip it good. No. Junior says if you were to meet a celebrity, who would it be? I don't know, man. I don't really care to meet celebrities. Joe says hi, hello Joe. Ava says, remember me, Don? No, I don't. Too Drippy says, rate my profile picture. 2 bikes on a sidewalk. That's interesting. I'd give it a 6. Oscar says, what kind of dog do you have? I'm not gonna say, sorry. Viron says, come to my house to clap. I'm not gonna clap you. Mine says, are your parents proud of you? No comment. Default says, if you meet Michael Jackson, how would you react? I would pinch myself because I thought he was dead. Thank you, Tyler, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Ken Bob says, I bet you have big black ball hairs. Okay. Gino says, remember me? No, I don't. Sam says, rate my profile picture. Those are interesting hand symbols. Yeah, I don't know. Keelko says, rate my profile. Oh, I hate that. Mister says, hello, M. Hello, Mister. Fishy says, is your house haunted? No, it's not. Gino says, yes, you do. No, I don't remember you. Viron says, are you going to be a dad? No, I'm not. Rallick says, you probably don't remember me. I'm some guy who was on the stream when it had to be canceled early. I remember that stream, and I remember your name. I remember you saying that your name is supposed to be some kind of joke. William says, bro, a femboy invited me to a date. Any advice? I don't know. I don't have experience with femboys. Thank you again, Tyler, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Viron says, yo daddy, come to my room. No, I'm not coming to your room. Tonic says, please say Tonix is washed for an edit, please. There you go. Joe says, hi, hello Joe. Spam says, I am Neo. What kind of silly thing are you saying right now? Thank you, Owen, for the preschool star. Essay says, hi, hello Essay. Catseye says, are you gay? I am heterosexual. Huge says, do you believe in ghosts? If not, why? I don't believe in ghosts. I think believing in ghosts is pretty stupid. Bernard says, why are you doing this? For you. For you and your gifts. For money. Thank you again, Bernard, for the gifts you sent earlier. Eric says, hi, hello Eric. Sebastian says, what's your pronouns? He, him. Kaz says, I am here. Welcome, Kaz. The Silence says, you remember me? I'm the guy who said rate my profile picture. 10,000 people have said that. Thank you, Front Seat Films, for the stupid John Lennon cat thing. I appreciate it. I wonder what films you make. Chris says, 10,000 people have said that you're quoting me. Junior says, why do ducks have feathers? To cover the butt cracks. Yeah. M says, what does heterosexual mean? Why don't you look it up? Thank you, Natalie, for the preschool star. The two of them, thank you. Donut says, do you like my name? Donut? Number. I don't really get I don't understand that username, but it's not a bad username though. Omar says, hi, hello Omar. The Razor says, rate my profile picture. I like the light there. I think that I'd give it a 4. Bernard says, by the way, that stupid cat thing was like $5. No way, it's $5. Maybe $3. Speaking of the cat, thank you again, Front Seat, for the cat. Blue says, what's up, Don? Hello, Blue. Ballet says, I accidentally started a fire in my friend's kitchen while we were baking. Could I borrow your stove to make a cake? No, I don't trust you like that. Danielle says, do you remember me? No, I don't. Abraham says, get a fucking job, you bum. I don't talk about my job. Randy says, hurt me, Don, make me squeal like a pig. Not like in Deliverance, no. F says, what is 500 times 1021? 500,000. It's 500,000 something, obviously. Ryan says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's a cool green bike. Daniel says, I was in a what? L-Dog says, there's definitely a pedophile in here. In the chat? Okay. Way the Zombie super chats first. You are not first. You're more like something... You're probably like 5,000th. Randy says, I was in your mom. No comment. Claire says, thoughts on Harry Styles. I think he's overrated. VIP says, what's your goals? One of them is to make a Minecraft server. Win says, rate my profile pic 1. Thank you, Martha, for the 100 gift, and thanks again, Way the Zombie. Timer extended. Laffy says, hey, how are you today? I'm fine. SA says, bro, what is it? Toji says, you're kind of mean. Yeah, maybe I am. Ella says, yo, what is up? I'm with my friend. She burnt down my kitchen. Oh, that other person. I know who you're talking about. That sucks. Junior says, how do NASA plan a party? They plan it. Oh, that's funny. Vana says, racial slur, Don. What? Ryan says, rate my profile pic. Already did. Shane says, I found your idea of doing that type of streaming really unique. Thank you. Wei says, better be 5,000 than 5,001. Haha. I guess so. Maria says, come daddy now. Alberto says, what's your view on American tipping culture? It's bad. I think 99% of people think it's bad. Toji says, kiss a man if a llama. I don't know what you're saying, dude. Thank you, Bernard, for the preschool star. Hunter says, I want your dick. Well, you're not gonna get it. Throwaway says, hey, my neighbor's friend burnt down their kitchen. Okay. Wow, the story is evolving. Well, they survive, so that's... I know they survive, so that's nice. Candy says, what does shut your bitch ass up mean? There you go. Endo says, what is the best cereal of all time? Fruit Loops. Thank you, the Cloud Man, for the 24 preschool stars. MM says, love the streams, man. Enjoy your day. Thank you, you too. Razor says, hi, best YouTuber on earth. Hello, Razor. Ballet says, don't let me use the stove. No, I don't trust you. Citrus says, do you want to quit streaming for a living? Yes. I mean, actually, like, what are you asking exactly? Like, is this my passion, my number one passion, streaming? No, it's not. Uncle says, miserable knob. Okay. This town says, I'm gay. You're gay, this town? Okay, that's cool. Ralix says, I can't believe you remember me. Damn. Yeah, I do. Thank you, the Cloud Man, for the 24 100s. Lamine says, how's life? Pretty good. The Wind says, why is everyone on here freaky? Because they're anonymous. CR says, my classmate got their kitchen burnt down. Okay. Muhammad says, what are your hobbies? I don't really have hobbies, to be honest. Junior says, why do golfers bring an extra pair of pants? Just in case he get a hole in one. Okay. I don't really get that. Claire says, thoughts on Harry Styles? I already answered that. Hi says, are you a fan of the dinosaurs? No, I'm not. Fishy says, what is your favorite food? The cheeseburger. Essay says, drink your water, please. Remind me in 5 minutes. Peanut says, am I a furry if I look at furry porn every single day? I would say so. Sasquatch says, you can pick the corn out of your poo-poo for a delicious, nutritious snack. That's really gross. I wouldn't do that. It's probably unsanitary too. Diago says, what's in the background? A fractal. Melon says, there's a very realistic meow meow drawing in my local playground. Okay. Thank you again, Bernard, for the preschool star. Default says, drink your water, son. Remind me in a few minutes. Z says, Michael Jackson, you mean asshole, hee. What? Okay. Sebastian says, can I crack you? No, you cannot. Toro says, how do you like your steak cooked? I don't know, because I don't eat steak. L-Dog says, water time. It's not yet. Claire says, any tips for sophomores? Well, I've enjoyed the Pomodoro technique when it comes to studying. The Wind says, what in the hell is happening? I don't know. Viron says, okay, cool, okay. Sunday Storm, I have a good pet. What are you saying? Normal says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's an interesting camera angle of a guitar. That's pretty... I'd give that a 7. Yo says, is your kitchen safe? Yeah, it is. This says, pain anal sex for daddy. I'm not interested in that. Peanut says, are you excited for MLP? I don't know what that is. Rand says, rate my profile picture. American flag, Twin Towers. That's pretty interesting. A 6. Junior says, why is the math book so sad? It has too many problems. Oh, that's funny. RTR says, are you in a bad mood today? No. Sebastian says, Piz, let me no. Thank you, Daniel, for the Sparkles gift. Noah says, how much do you stream a day? It's usually like 3 hours. VHS says, give me that D, little Timmy Turner. I condemn your message. Quack super chats, you're alone? And your door locked? I'm not going to answer that for privacy and safety reasons. Moonwalker says, my city is on lockdown because someone in my city's house burnt down. Okay. The story is evolving. Thank you, Daniel, for the 6-7 abomination. Pormer2 says, I want to hear the vacuum pressure pop. Okay. Amy says, why is everyone so freaky? Yeah, I don't know. Yo says, hide your wives, hide your kitchens. Okay. Melon says, what time is it? It's in the PM right now. Peanut says, do you watch Hazbin Hotel? No. I hate that TV show. Sebastian says, how big is it, please? My penis length is none of your business. Melon says, what? I already read that. Lamin says, tips for school studying. The Pomodoro technique. Thank you again, Quack, for your super chat. And again, I'm not answering those questions because of home invader reasons. Alberto says, water break. 1 second, please, as I hydrate. Look at that nice lake in that picture. 1 second. Kettle says, give us a little smile if you give me money. Yas says, hi, hello, Yas. Kettle says, I already read that. You're pretty annoying. Deva says, are you English? Like Anglo-Saxon or Scandinavian or... No, I'm not. Roz says, hi, hello. Natalie says, I just searched up animal porn. It must have been gross. Quack super chats, drink more water now. Since you gave me money, I'll do that. 1 second. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. Peanut says, why do you hate Hazbin Hotel? It's a show for children that want to feel like they're being scandalous by watching something that's adult. Like I don't know, it's just not my style. Ella says, let her use your stove now. Gerard says, rate my profile picture. Oh, a lizard? That's cool. Stud says, daddy. What? Gerard says, rate my profile picture. If I had to give it a number, I'd say 4. Quack super chats, more water. No, I've drank enough. MM says, who's worse, Epstein or Trump? Well, Epstein is a confirmed pedophile, so probably Epstein. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. Saint says, do you perform the natural obligations? What do you mean by that? Homer 2 says, I committed arson, and they blamed it on their little kid. You should turn yourself in. SG says, the only way I could do that was to just put the money into credit. Don't go into debt. Junior says, why can't a bicycle stand up on its own? It is too tired. That's pretty funny. Dumb says, are you agarica with cheese? Don't say I don't know. I'm a human, so I am not that. Luna says, how HU best person ever? I don't know what HU means, but thank you for calling me the best person. Viron says, Jesus or devil? Jesus. Quack says, water now. No. I've already drank enough. But, you know, thank you for your money, though. If you give me, like a green super chat, I'll drink more, but... Nova says, please shout me out. No. Christine says, hey, my friend said their neighbor's kitchen burnt down. Yeah, I've been hearing about that too. Vanilla says, go eat a shark. I'm not gonna do that. Nor a pigeon. This says, do you like George Floyd? Well, I heard he was murdered, and I don't like that. I don't like that. Alma says, hi, poop. That's not me. Wild says, hello there, my friend. Hello, Wild. SG says, I don't know if I can get a hold of you because I'm in a meeting. Well, you have got a hold of me, actually, from your message. Turo says a firefighter died in a house fire trying to save someone. Oh, I didn't know that part of the story. That's horrible. Throwaway says cheese, sharks, or burnt down kitchen. I prefer cheese out of all of that. Thank you again, Daniel, for the sparkles and the 6-7 abomination gift. Dury says hi. Hello, Dury. This town says I hate George Floyd. I condemn your chat message. AV says, do you think planes are useful? Yeah, they are, obviously. Goku says hi. Hello, Goku. AJ says, bring me up right now or I'll force water down your throat. Looks like I'm safe. Natalie says, bless your hard... What? UT says, my sweet boy. Hello, UT. L-Dog says, can I have the music name in the background? I don't know the names, I'm sorry. I'll put it in the description eventually, but... Alma says, should I subscribe? If you're asking that question, probably not. Junior says, are you age last? It's when a person rarely laughs. I think so. Thank you again, Daniel, for the 6-7 abomination gift. And Vana for the preschool star. Peanut says, why is human and dog sex illegal? It sounds like animal cruelty. That's why. Wei says, you look like you're suffering through this. That's actual comedy. Okay. This town says, George Floyd is burning in hell right now. I condemn your chat message. Colazo says, do you practice nofap? No comment. Ballet says, Don, watch out. Me and my friend are on our way to your kitchen. I'll call the police if that's the case. Pormer2 says, this is type 3 fun. I don't know what that is. Yo Cheese says, can we ban this racist, this town guy? I don't really like banning people. Like, I don't agree with what he's saying, but... 1 second, please. My mouse is glitching right now. Okay, there we go. The Kyoka says, yo, what's up, Don? Do you remember me? Yeah, I do. Thank you, Greasy, for the preschool star gift. Sport says, keep donating, Quack. Speaking of that, Quack just donated. Quack Super Chats, check your kitchen. There's nothing unusual there. There's lots of talk of people coming to my kitchen right now, but they're just bluffing. They're not being serious. There's nothing over there. I'm not even gonna check. Thank you, Quack, for your Super Chat. Timer extended. Peanut says, if Allah came inside you and licked this peanut butter off your feet, would you become Muslim? I would just assume that I would be hallucinating. Melon says, could you add like 5 minutes more to the timer? Well, I'll add 2 more because of this guy super chatting. Timer extended. Just like super chats, do not check your kitchen. Sounds good. I'll do that. Yo Cheese says, if it's not your kitchen, it's society's kitchen burning down. Society's kitchen is always burning down. X says, are you Christian? I am not. Thank you, I don't even know anymore, for the preschool star. 2 stars. Corey says, I'm a big fan. By the way, can you shout out my channel? No, I hate you. Leave my stream forever. Quack Super Chats. Guys, I am not rich, okay? You're not rich? Maybe you should save your money instead of super chatting, if I were you. If that's the case that you're poor. Timer extended. Sport says quack donate green. No comment. AV says I dropped a nuke on Tokyo. No comment either on that. Alberto says shut up quack. Okay. Haroon says who is that gay person who talk about Islam? I think the person that was talking about Islam earlier has a Simpsons profile picture. I remember that. Spartan says are you a femboy? No. Normal says what are your thoughts on the band Nirvana? I've listened to the Nevermind album a few dozen times. Faded says do you think Derek is a sociopath? Who's Derek? Corey says what did I do, man? I don't know. UT says peanut butter lover, keep Allah out of your mouth. Okay. Thank you, Ellis, for the preschool star. Natalie says bless your heart, thank you. Quack super chats no. Oh, you're gonna continue to give me money even though you're not rich? Thank you. And you know, but on your behalf I'll drink some water because you were asking me to do that earlier. 1 second please. Timer extended. Jane says God bless, thank you. Naomi says why are you so mad? I'm not mad. Ben says bro you're heckin' annoying. Why are you watching then? Thank you Jovan for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Just like S says I've been listening to the band Mr. Bungle. Just wanted to share. Why don't you send me a song of theirs on Discord? Naomi says why are you? I'm not mad. Alf says who is your favorite celebrity? Bill Gates. I don't know, I'm just kidding. Spartan says who would you date, a femboy? Probably not. This says Kamala Harris and Martin Luther King and George Floyd are working on my plantation. No, they are not. Alaho says have you played Arma Reforger? No. Peanut says is Benjamin Netanyahu a beast in bed? I'm not in a sexual relationship with Netanyahu. Vicious says thoughts on orange juice? Think wisely. Vicious orange juice. You're not going to do anything anyways, but I like it though. I'm not just saying I like orange juice, it's great. Wordo super chats, what's your favorite midnight snack? Microwavable Kraft mac and cheese. I like Kraft's mac and cheese slop. It tastes good. Timer extended. I love says rate my profile picture. Oh, a fish, that's cool. For Noble says can I crack? No. Team says hi, hello team. Pumbafo super chats. I think you should go back to your roots. No Oblivion music, no hypno colors and racism. Go back to my roots. No Oblivion music. I mean, I don't know. I like change. I like experimenting. I don't like doing stuff that I've already done. Like I like continual change. Like maybe I'll get rid of the Oblivion music. Yeah. I don't know what else. I don't know what I'm gonna replace it though with. I like the background though. I like there being something that you can look at besides my face. I think it's weird if you're just staring at my face all day. Guadalupe says Ronaldo or Messi? Messi. Kayoko says, do you have a favorite color? Gray. Rob says, what's your B-day? I'm not gonna say, sorry. Thank you again, Pumba. If you're trying to indicate to me that I'm like selling out, I don't think so. By like having the background or... By the way, there's always been racism in my chat. I don't know what... That's just wrong. There's always been that. Timer extended. Maxim says, can you do ASMR with your keyboard? No. T. James says, is it normal that my cat is sleeping all the time? No, it's not. Toro says, what's your favorite scary movie? The Ring. Adventure says, hi, hello, Adventures. Way the Zombie says, I kind of like your new setup. The anxiety music you use To have was my favorite. Made the comments sound better. Yeah, maybe. Yellow says half racism, half PDF, a few normal. I hope that's not the case. Poodle Pancakey super chats. Do you like One Piece, sir? No, I do not. Isn't it like super long and doesn't it have like tons of filler? I don't want to watch all that filler. Timer extended. Capybara says capybara. Okay. Peanut says, are you a Zionist? No comment. Jay Kizzy says, you seen there's an EDP documentary? I saw the trailer, I think, in my recommendations. Yeah. I'm not too interested in it, though. Terika, thank you for the disco ball abomination gift. Zero G says Jew. Alright. Isaac says, how has your day been? Good. I ate McDonald's today. Boeing says, are you scared of someone clipping you? No, I'm not. Terika says, you like anime? No. Poodle super chats. If you don't like filler, you should read it. That's a good suggestion. But I don't really like anime, Japanese comics in general. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not into that. Sorry, I was distracted looking at your profile picture. Isn't that guy's name Dale from King of the Hill? Anyways, Adventure says people are weird. Yeah. Thank you, Poodle. Timer extended. Mood says, hey man, hello Mood. Darius says, hi, hello Darius. Just like a super chat's filler. I hardly knew her. I hardly know her. I don't really get that. Kai says, what things do you like? I like money and eyes wide shut. B-Ball says, hi, hello B-Ball. MX says, hi, hello MX. Anne says, hi, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. Sebastian says, partially or partly? I say partly more. Boeing says, what would you do if someone clipped you doing something weird? I don't think I would care. Fishy says, yo, my bad, I just made was so chaotic, go check it out. No, you're a loser for self-advertising. Thank you again, Ashley's, for the 6-7 Abomination gift. Turo says, what about Scream? I haven't seen that movie. Block says, do you have a headache? No, I do not. No. Quack says, water time. Sure. 1 second as I drink some water. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. Queen says, want to be friends? Sorry, no. Divine says, would you rather date a femboy or a gay man? My brain can't comprehend that question, I'm sorry. Thank you, Terika, for the 6-7 Abomination gift. Cherry says, asshole. Alright. Star says, what hemisphere do you live in? The northern hemisphere, I think. Beetroot says, man, I love you. How's your day? Pretty good. Boeing says, I hate those YouTube videos and they just beg you to like and subscribe. Boy, nobody's going to subscribe if you advertise yourself so much. I don't like that either. Robin says, yo, hello Robin. JK says, hey bro, good to see you. Hello JK. With a Jesus mugshot wanted poster. Chang says, do you like K-dramas? No, I do not. Thank you, P.O., for the John Lennon cat POVR. Thank you. Garth says, this shit is fake because my comment never appears. That's a pretty bad, test. Your own one comment, it doesn't appear. There's lots of other comments I could choose from. Fled says, remember me? No, there's lots of people with that profile picture. Benjamin says, yo bro, hello Benjamin. Maya says, are you a single Pringle? Sorry, I keep that private. Thank you, P.O., for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Spy says, peak, thank you. 781 says, what's up brother? Love the live. Love the uniqueness of your lives, thank you. W says, what is this channel? Just some guy reading chat messages. T. James says, I'm proud to be Canadian. Okay. By the way, I'm thinking about a... Never mind. Michaela says, hi, Big Cheese. Hello, Michaela. Yellow says, can you watch my edits? No. Michael says, do you remember me? No, I do not. Thank you, I like, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Pormer2 says, tell us. Oh, I was just gonna say that I'm thinking... Like, I've already told you, Pormer2, that I'm thinking about, like hiring a person to stream on my channel and to read chats. I'm not gonna be a part of it, but they're gonna stream on my channel and they're gonna read chat messages. CR says, how do you get the messages on screen? Live chat overlay. Quack super chats, can you donate for me? I am poor now. I don't know if anyone's gonna donate on your behalf. I don't know, maybe. Probably not. Timer extended. Lorak says, hey, what's your favorite type of music? I don't know, I don't listen to music. Star says, have you played VR before? Yeah, for like half an hour. MX says 67 or Rickroll. 67. WTV says you look racist. Is it the polo shirt? Just like super chats, this is specifically not for Quack. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, okay. I guess Quack's wish hasn't been fulfilled yet. Thank you, for the super chat. Timer extended. I love says love from Norway. Thank you. Shadow says hi. Hello, Shadow. Peanut says, do you sometimes think about me at night while you touch yourself? No. Thank you. I like cool ideas for the Laughing Disco Abomination and Winky for the 6-7 Abomination. Jace says, do you play Black Ops 2? No, but I used to. RM says, I hear you have a Somalian girlfriend. No comment. Archer says, perfect time for me to finish making dinner. Don, oil up, my big dog. I'm not gonna oil up. Thank you, Yummy, for the 6-7 Abomination, and Winky for the annoying disco. Yellow says, keep gooning. I'm not doing that. Ellie says, how do you like your steak? I don't eat steak. CR says, PlayStation or Xbox? PlayStation. Fishy says, drink your water. Not right now. Boeing says, you're lagging. I hope not. Hopefully it's just you. Sage says, do you like Modern Warfare? I haven't played those games. Yellow says, I meant keep going on God, sorry. I'm not doing it right now anyways. Corey says, can you rate my profile picture, please? That's a pretty funny dog. Eric says, pizza or goon? Pizza. Sebastian says, I miss 2021 so bad. Me too. The Potter says, today is International Owl Awareness Day. Everyone look at this owl. Dancing says, please do a Minecraft stream. Maybe eventually. Sebastian says, can you feed me water, please? No. Connor says, Daddy, Goon, I don't know what to say, Daddy. Well, that works. I'm not gonna do that, though. Mr. Mushroom says, remember me? No, I don't. JK says, dude, I would do that for free. You would read chat messages on my channel for free? Maybe we can look into that. It's Sakana says, do you like Pokemon? I do not. Thank you, Winky, for the feces. AD says, I checked your channel out. Your content sucks. You didn't need to check out my channel. This is the content. This is all I do. Corey says, thank you so much, but you did not rate it. I'd give it a 6. Jacob says, you okay because you look dead. I am okay. Quack super chats, water please, I am begging. I've drank enough water. Timer extended. Mike says, I support you and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Boeing says, did you start to feel insecure when you started to become famous? No. Way the Zombie says, he's only dead inside, lols. That's not true. Thank you, Winky, for the clock it, and ADHD for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Unified says, red button or blue button. If I were to have, like, these buttons be a color, I would choose blue. Denver says, what's your relationship with gooning? No comment. Turo says, I'm Negan, shithead. Okay. Just like S says, this music makes me feel like I'm marching on the Redcoats, brother. Yeah, it does have that vibe. Chang says, what made you become a YouTuber? Money. Way the Zombie says, if alone on a desert island with a zombie for 4 years, would you bang? Maybe. Wave says, hello sir, shout me out now. Leave the stream. Thank you, Winky, for, what is this? Chinese fortune cookie, thank you. Good luck. Thank you for the good luck, Winky. Kenya says, oh what? RM says, this sounds like classical Somalian music. To be completely transparent, I actually don't hear the music that you guys hear. I turned it off. I usually have it in my headphones, but for this this is the first stream where I'm not listening to the same music as you guys. Sunk says, Donnie Poo, do you remember me? I do not. Rex says, where are you from? I am from the USA. Itzakana says, get some rest, bro. Well, I'm not tired though. Alberto says, what phone should I upgrade to? You should upgrade to a phone you can buy on eBay for less than $500. Thank you, Winky, for the high five gift, and Roxy for the John Lennon cat. Way the Zombie says, the music is not an issue, guys. I can't hear it. What? Bo says, everyone add me on Discord, Bo. Go ahead, guys, if you want to. Eugene says, what's your favorite block in Minecraft? I liked stripped logs. Nash says, hi, hello, Nash. 781 says, have you ever been to Boston? No, I haven't. Thank you, Fat Belly, for the Mecha Chameleon thing, and Winky for the feces. Quack says, water? Not yet. Haya says, discovering this channel was the biggest mistake I've made. You're addicted? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Kathy, for the Mecha Chameleon thing, and Roxy for the stupid turtle drinking water. I'll drink water. I'll copy this turtle. 1 second, please. Thank you, Roxy, for the gift. JK says, I've been told I have a great podcast voice. Okay. Yeah, that I think I'll follow you up on that. But it may be like a month or two until I follow up. Pormer2 says, please, Don, you can't do this to us. Do what? Have multiple streamers on my channel? Toro says, how long have you been gay, and do your parents know that you're gay? I've been gay for 0 seconds, and nobody knows I'm gay, including myself. YT says, hydration break, again, Don now. I don't take orders from you. Pormer2 says, put us through the music alone, inhumane. It is wrong, I'm sorry. It is a bad thing I'm doing. I'll fix that. Like, I want to expand the music, the song playlist to be like 100 songs. Azerbaijan says, Pepsi or Fanta? Pepsi. Just like says, you don't know you're gay. Doesn't that just mean you imply you're closeted? Yeah, I am. But I'm closeted to myself. That I'm so closeted that I'm closeted to myself. Marco says, Don Juan. Okay. The Noisy says, hi, Don. Hello, Noisy. I'm here says, rate my profile picture. A road sign that's, I mean, it's kind of boring, but at the same time, it's kind of cool, I guess. T1 says, drink water, not right now. Toro says drink, make it clap, no. Bane says, what's up? I hope you had an amazing day, Don. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Don says no. No what? Kay says, does your dad love you? No comment. Archer says, freak bobs are in the chat, bro. Yeah, they are. I am your friend, says rough. Okay. Joel says, don't drink water, good boy. I'm not doing it to please you. Thank you, EMP, for the preschool star, and Quack for the super chat. Quack's super chats. Water better than Pepsi and Fanta. Now drink. Eater. Was that meant to say water? The letter E is next to the letter W on the keyboard, so that's definitely a typo. I'll drink water. 1 second, please, because he gave me money. 1 second. Quack says, yeah, I knew it was a typo. Victor says, you the best life ever, and you are the best streamer. Thank you. I'm here says, you didn't give me a number of my profile. Okay, 5. The Noisy says, hi on, hello again. Cold Slayer says, Coke is better, right? Yeah, it is. Best soda. Booley says, you should run for president. No, I should not. Sunk says, is it okay if I tell people you're gay? Femboy trans? Yeah, you can. Shizzy says, do you believe in God? No, I do not. Bamboozle says, remember in high school when we tickled each other's pickles in the back of class? No, I do not remember that. Tom says, why though? Why what? That's an interesting profile picture. Mr. Lemon says, I like cheese. Do you like cheese? Moans, It's pretty weird, but I do like cheese. Peanut says, if we met IRL and I ended myself in front of you, would he have sex with my corpse? No, I would not commit necrophilia. I would be horrified and very sad. Thank you, Emerald, for the preschool star. Quack says, water or water? Neither. No Mercy says, shout out to low tier god. That lolcow? Okay. Ellie says, least favorite food, peanuts. Victor says, you remember me? I said, what was your favorite game? No, I do not. Fullbox says, hi, hello, Fullboxed. Gabriella says, I need help right now. I can't help, but I hope you find what you're looking for. Rail says, hi, hello, Rail. Koshoko says, if you met Ronaldo, would you say Sui to him? No. I would just say hi and then leave. Thank you, the kid, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. NR says, chicken jockey. Okay. Alone says, where's my ham? I put it right here. I don't know where your ham is. Obsessed says, hello, I'm Vin Tiger. Hello, Vin. Way the Zombie says, I feel like we're the lol cows. Not sure how to take that. I see what you're saying. Maybe you guys are. I don't think so, though. Save says, are you gay? No. Your local says, femboys or tomboys? Tomboys. Archer says, have you seen the Odyssey yet? No, I haven't. Zeno says, say we love Uteka for an edit. I don't care to say that. Battery says, did you know it's impossible for hurricanes to cross the equator because of the Coriolis effect? No, I did not. And I'll forget that in like a few minutes because I think that's a pretty boring fact. 1 second, please, as I go do something. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Milky says favorite song. I don't know. I like the song Pete Standing Alone. Alberto says Goon Break. Goon Break, Goon Break, Goon Break. How did everyone's on the same page saying that you guys are a team? But you guys are wrong. That I did not just do that. Former 2 says, so is the kitchen fine? Yeah, it is. I mean, if it was on fire or something, I probably would have smelled it anyways from here. Don says, like water? Yeah, I do. Joel says, you and I are a team. Okay. Thank you, this kid sucks, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. I appreciate it. With Zombie says, is your refrigerator running? Yes. Former 2 says noted. Okay. YouTube says ban Elfie. No. Quack Super Chats L water break. I was not drinking water when I was gone. Ryan says little Donnie B had it too good. Okay. Sunk says, if you were furry, what animal would you be? I don't know, man. Crew says, Jesus loves you, thank you. Joystick says, how long have you been streaming? For an hour. Corey says, read my profile picture. The white part at the top is stupid. Karen says, you have a very soothing voice. Thank you. Casey says, you live in, no comment. Dirt says, do you remember me, Don? I do not remember you. Katie says, if you're reading this, I just wasted 7 seconds of your life. I don't agree with you. Turo says, Trent out there has the worst community of any YouTube short streamer. Really? I thought I might have, but okay. Mad says, goon on me, daddy. I'm not doing that. That Mini says, what are your PC specs? GTX 1080, 64 gigs of RAM. Addy says, who we're raiding? I don't know yet. I don't even know if we're gonna do a raid. Saint says, want to get swatted? No, I don't. Way the Zombie says, Katie 1, Don 0. Okay. JK says, so how is that going to work? I read the chats and you respond to them? No. Like, I'm not even a part of it. Like, you do the whole thing. Like, you read the chats, you respond, like, you do exactly what I'm doing. Ro says, chat, I like girls. Me too. Quack super chats water cult. It does seem like you're in a cult about water. You're constantly talking about water. Water. Yeah. Water, water. Water. Yeah. Yeah. Did I see this super chat? I almost feel like I missed it. But yeah, thank you, Quack, for all of your super chats. I appreciate it. Ryan says Water Squad. Okay. Laura says Matthew, my mattress. Okay. Just like S says it's a hydration fetish. Oh, that's weird. You made it weird. Alf says, one superpower, what would it be? To read people's minds. Boy the Zombie says, Quack wants to swim, I guess. Yeah, it seems like it. Thank you, Chance, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Katie says, if you were reading this, you just fell for the same trick. I don't care. I'm not too affected by. Yeah, I don't view it as a waste of time. Just says Raid Trent is here now. Kendall says water break. Not right now. Jackson says, when was the last time you touched grass? Today. Jaxel says, I always come back. Welcome back, Jaxel. Fish says, are you in a cult? No. PD says, where have you been? I've been none of your business. By the way, does anyone have any investment advice or like Stocks I should invest in. Natalie says, I love my husband, Roger. Okay. Thank you, Jukebox and Chance, for the gifts. TJ says, when was the last time you looked at your subscribers? Today. Don says, have you ever had the most diabolical dreams? No. Never dreamed about murdering anyone or doing illegal things. Sebastian says, how veiny is your di? No comment. JK says, I already read that. Jaxel says, a fire truck is actually a water truck. Yeah. It says, hi, hello, it's. Sunk says, my first ever comment on this channel was Trump x Biden. What are your thoughts? But you didn't answer. Trump x Biden? Like, imagine them in a relationship? That's weird. That many says, have you ever had a girl? No comment. God says, check my profile picture. It's football. Quack Super Chats H2O break. I got you. 1 second, please. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. The quackiest LARPer says, rate my profile picture, I upgraded it. Looks terrible. Why is the eye and his hair in his eyes? I don't like that. I don't like the cartoon style either. Prob says, check my profile picture. It's a default profile picture. Prob says, check my I already read that. Dude says, hi, hello, dude. My TV says, my TV is still broke. I hope it gets repaired. UT says, please, I love you. Please what? Ancient says, why does the water bottle look bigger? I don't know. The camera angle's the same, the water bottle is the same, I don't know why. I already read that. Thank you again, Uncle, for the preschool star. Kanye says, check out my profile picture. It's Kanye West. Val says, do you like ducks? Yeah, I do. By the way, does anyone have any investment advice or stocks I should invest in? Mick Goober says, you like dubstep? No, I don't. Katie says, if you're reading this, my dog died and went to the water park. That doesn't make any sense. Peanut says, does it hurt your tight butthole when you let out a large, stinky, moist pile of feces? No comment. UT says, go for CM2 coin. Oh, crypto? I'm not into crypto. Just like S says, invest in tech. It's usually a safe bet. I have some shares in Google. Save says, you remember me? No, I don't. Yesra says, yes, his been with a girl before it's me. I don't know you. Never did. Quack Super Chats, wait. I am a duck? You love me? You are a duck. I don't love ducks though. They're pretty cool, but I'm not a fanatic. I'm not thirsty. I've drank enough water. Biggie says, rip my profile picture. That's a creepy looking dog. Toro says, I'm investing in Don Benitez. Oh, that's cute. Emerald says, name me a car for an edit. Tesla Model 3. Just like S says, he's a Google shareholder. He's an elite. An elite. Interesting. Red face emoji. What are you trying to say? Sergeant says, Don, should I go to sleep or jerk off? You should go to sleep. Jammy says, his favorite cheese, just American cheese. M says, can you give me a shout out? No, I hate you. Just a mango says, Trent has a Tesla. Okay. Jessica says, what is your favorite animal? Chimpanzees and humans. Alf says, rate my profile picture. What is that? Looks like the Age of Ultron guy from Avengers, Marvel. I'd give it a 3. Thomas says English or Spanish? English. JK says stock NLY 13% dividend. What is NLY stock? I don't know. Anali Capital Management. Interesting. Oh, looking at the graph, it looks like it's been going down. Like it's been consistently going down. Like looking at since it looks like the graph makes it look bad. Pancake says I unsubbed. Okay. Gaming says rate my profile picture. Oh, a bunch of controllers. That's cool. Albert says, yo, I got to go. See ya, Albert. Dr. Denial says, I saw my aunt please herself. Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry. Just a Person says, S&P 500, reinvest dividends. You could also try Roth IRA. Yeah, that's the safe way. Just says, I love that you remember the movie is called Age of Ultron, but not that he's called Ultron. Oh, yeah. Noxify says, it's my birthday. Happy birthday, Noxify. Jaxel says, do you love your viewers? No. I am says, hi. Hello, I am. Turo says, he's not one of us. Don't you guys get it? We are the lol cows. Yeah, maybe. Funny says, do you remember me? No, I don't. Thank you, Jukebox, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Aiden says, are we best friends? No. Joystick says, what games do you play? I was playing the game Lucid Blocks a few hours ago. Gabio says, what are you doing? Streaming. Just like says, power to the people, rise chatters. Okay. Prob says, have you ever read a book? Yes. Claudia says, I play Fortnite. Okay. BD says, do you remember me? No. By the way, JK from PA, like, I'm looking at the graph of the stock you recommended, and for the past, 20 years, it's been going down. So. Miku says, I won my first horse race today. Awesome. Ronvin says, do you remember me? No. Kareem says, Ryoki Tenkai. Okay. Me says, Jesus is the God to trust. I don't believe so. Sunk says, for $1 million, would you shake it in a maid costume and have it posted publicly on the Mr. Beast channel? No, that's way too much public humiliation. BD says, do you remember me now? No, I don't. Brenda says, hi. Hello, Brenda. Mix says, Pliss, rate my profile picture. I like how the word mix is in there. It's kind of hidden. MIX, that's cool. N says, how do you feel about going 90 in a school zone? I condemn anyone that does that. JK says, buy NLY for the 13% dividend, not the stock price. It hovers between 21 and 23. Yeah. That's. I don't know too much about dividends. I'll look into that. Just says HTTP. Okay. Official says, have you read the Bible? Some of it. Emerald says, yo bro, I know it's pretty annoying. Some people say things weird, but you're really hardworking. Seeing every question people say. And you answer. By the way, Jesus loves you. Thank you, Emerald. Dago says, are you a pedo? No. Washington says, I joined your live a while ago, and I don't think my left testicle is getting any better from last time. Oh, I'm sorry. Doctor says, I am scared of lying in my deathbed, staring at the version of yourself you were forced to be. Okay. Big Mac says, yo, hello, Big Mac. Traffic says, I'm seeing the new Spider-Man tomorrow. Have you watched it? I have not. I don't care to. Thank you, Saker, for the sparkles. Player says, are you coming to the tree? No, I'm not. Jude says, Raid or Nuketown? I'm a sucker for Nuketown. BD says, will you sub? No. Toph says, you like Jesus? Not really. DF says, reading is for chuds. No, it's not. Wardog says, do you love Jesus? Love? No. Thank you, Post-it Note and Mr. Jax, for the Mecha Chameleon things. Johnny says, I'm using a sex toy dildo for today. You're into that? Okay. Quack says, you like water? Yeah, I do. Brian super chats, be well, Don. Always refreshing to see you stream. Thank you, Brian. My streams are refreshing. Thank you for saying that, and for the money. Timer extended. Ramon says, if you aren't sure how dividends and stocks are related, just buy a VOO and relax. Yeah, I heard the VOO was the way to go. Like, if I were to buy any new stocks right now, like the VOO has been on the top of my list. Like for the past year or so. Jace says, do you got a girlfriend? I keep that private. FC says, I know this isn't refreshing for you, Don. It is, it's kind of refreshing, actually. Mystery says, bye. See you, Mystery. Peanut says, I live at something something. No comment. Isolt says, do you like Joe Bart? No, I don't. Bacon says, goon. No. DF says, would you gritty on your mom for $1? No, I wouldn't. Jason says, how often do you stream? On average, it's probably like every 3 days. Thank you again, Brian, for your super chat. Family says, devil or Jesus? Jesus. Funny Time says, can I donate 500? Yeah, you can. 67 says, do you like shock o'clock? I don't know what that is. Jace says, do you like chocolate? No. Triple E says, if you click and see this, wait 20 seconds. No. Gnome says, do you hippopotamus something something something? I don't know what that means. Big Trippa says, femboy furry. What? BD says red or blue. I'm gonna go with blue. Malachi says, you watch pornography? No comment. Wade the Zombie says, AI agents can build things in Blender now. And the next AI model, next month, is going to all human capability. AGI? Really? Dirtbike says, rate my profile picture. 2. Thank you again, Post-it Note and Mr. Jax, for the gifts. Alf says, it's from Fortnite. Oh, I can see it now. Corgi says, Dallas Midtown. Alright. Vela says, water. Not right now. Doggin says, what's the formula of the Pythagorean theorem? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. James says, when was the last time you showered? Yesterday. Noah says, rate my profile picture. I can't tell what that is. Pizza says, have you seen the amazing Digital Circus? It's peak. No, it's the opposite of peak. Portal says, water. Not right now. Bacon says, bust. Alright, I'm not doing that. Fresh says, yo, hello, Fresh. Toe says, rate my profile picture. Pretty boring. Don't like it. Doctor says, how much acid would he need to dissolve something that weighs roughly 72 kilos? No comment. Big Mac says, MJ or LeBron? NYC says, do you think Canada is a boring country? Yes. Andrew says, spam 3 if Donna's gay. I would type 2 if I were you guys. Thank you, Rizzy, for the 67 gift. Fresh as water. Fine, 1 second please as I drink water. Alone says, have you seen Jackass? Yes, the first one. Ant says, hi, hello, Ant. DF says, do you remember me? I remember you from like 5 minutes ago. Doggo says, have you seen my sex toy dildo? No, I haven't. Schizo says, I'm bored. Do your job and entertain me. I don't like put tons of effort into entertaining. Like, if you're not entertained, then so be it. Tough luck. Dolgan says 3. Okay. Joe says, it's been 3 hours since your last drink. That is completely false. Thank you, Fishin, for the floating heart gift. Gnome says, Sydney, monorail rip. Okay. BB says, are you not entertained? Alright. Peanut says, you should play Roblox. No, I shouldn't. Dolgan says, is that video behind you on YouTube? No. I got it from Patreon. It's in the description. Thank you, Mame, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Ice says, I'm eating cheese. Okay. That one says, get a job. I don't talk about my job. Francisco says F. I see 3 Fs right there. Saki says, hate from Israel. Okay. Gabio says, rate my profile picture. A red bike. I'd give it a 4. Pio says, I'm back. Welcome back, Pio. Where the Zombie says, how heavy is she? No comment. Thank you, Dre, for the W gift. BB says, thoughts on the new Spider-Man? I don't care for it. Other says, can you shout me out? No, I hate you. Fresh says, do you watch movies? Occasionally. Jastic says, what's your favorite book? Wisdom of Life by Schopenhauer. Doctor says, the hostages are trying to escape. I don't have any hostages. Thank you, Murtod, for the preschool star. Jay says, how long did YouTube? Since 2015. Sports says, did you play any sports as a kid? No. Crabino says, Diddy, good boy. Okay. Redone says, Don, do you remember me? No, I do not. Spire says, you ever heard of Warhammer 40k? I've heard of the name. Houston says, what's your favorite name? I like the name Sophia. Big says, new fan, but you like Minecraft? Yes. Noah says, hello, big boy. Hello, Noah. Thank you, Pug and Murtod, for the gifts. Thank you. Portal says, rate my profile picture. Default, 5. The one says, do you know who Sampa is? No, I don't. Thakana says, you remember me? No. Alone says, have you ever encountered silly cars, humor people? I don't know what that is. H says, you good, bro? Yes. Thank you, Fishin, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. PD says, excuse me. Can't. Okay, I don't know what you're saying. Who says, hey, hello, who's. YouTube says, hi, hello, YouTube. Aries says, rate my profile picture. A ninja that looks boring, looks cliche, like just ninja Japan slop. Yeep says, well, sends a Mecha Chameleon gift. Thank you, Yeep. SJ says, blah blah blah, racial slur. I condemn your chat message. Grega says, will I make it in life? You play Roblox? Probably not. Pizza says, rate my profile picture. I wish it was more original. Cade says, have you watched Stranger Things? I've seen a few seasons. Mr. Milkshake says, rate my profile picture. 0.1. FR says, rate my... what is that? Is that an animal? It's hard to tell, but it looks pretty cool. Isaiah says, hi, sorry I'm new. What is the timer for? You can figure it out. Jackie says, lol, probably not to Roblox, yeah. Thank you, MTB, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Doctor says, I drank 4 liters of salt water. Oh, that's gotta be unhealthy. Gnome says yen. Okay. Razor says, have you read the Quran? I haven't. Ministry says, is this a rhetorical question? You just broke my mind. I'm gonna say no. Stella says, do you like Michael Jackson? I do. Stanley says, what games do you play? Lucid Blocks. Casket says, do you go through all the messages or pick randomly? I pick randomly. Alone says, when you're off screen, are you online a lot? Yes. Do you watch a lot of YouTube? Yes. Charles says, guess my name. Charles. Thank you, Reed, for the John Lennon cat. I appreciate it. By the way, never mind. Thank you, Reed, for the gift. Reed Van. The Real says, rate my profile picture. Overused profile picture. 04 says, my dick is tiny, but nobody will know. I know. Charles says, do you remember me? Yeah, from like 1 minute ago, yeah. Boom says, sandwich or burrito? Sandwich. Thank you, Gilbert, for the Mega Chameleon gift, and Mary for the artificial flower. Mix says, I drew my profile picture, by the way. I can tell. Caden says, hi. Hello, Caden. Cold Slayer says, do you know Bon Benitez? No, I don't. Thank you again, Reed Van, for the John Lennon cat. Razor says, do you remember me from the previous streams? No. Pizza says, toast or sandwich? Sandwich. Cheyenne says, do you watch WWE? No, I do not. By the way, does anyone have any company ideas? This is pretty random, but does anyone have any startup ideas? Grayson says, I got my dog pregnant. That's not possible. Maryland says, do you play indie games? Yes. IZ says, when did you get into Rainbow Six Siege? I got into it in the beta. Amelia says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's cute. Dog with sunglasses. Isaiah says, do you still have milk in your boobs? I never had milk in there. Gino says, remember me? No, I do not. Jammy says, I have a startup idea. What is it? Giga says, remember me? No. N says, what's your favorite food? The cheeseburger. Thank you, Sunshine, for the feces. Parker says, rip my profile picture. Oh, a guy playing golf? That's cool. Fresh says, what's the longest you've done one of these streams? 12 hours. Mix says, hi. Hello, Mix. Portal says, I have a startup idea. What is it? Alberto says, I low-key like your hair. Thank you. Not says, which of your toes is your favorite? I don't know. I hate my toes. Amelia, thank you for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Caden says, I was born March 30th, 2015. Then you shouldn't be here then. Razor says, investing is a great start to make some starting money. Yeah. Rocco says, hi. Hello, Rocco. Jay Plays says, how big is it? None of your business. Hen says, rate my profile picture. And my startup idea is a company who blocks phones that block AI. That's pretty stupid. Thank you, Ant Spellverse 1, for the plastic flower. Duckana says, you remember me? I do not. Ramon says, bro, just sell your used underwear. I'm not gonna stoop that low. Quack says, guys, stop making auto-doxing, just drink water. Remind me in 5 minutes. Thank you, Amelia, for the W gift, and thank you again to Reed Van for the cat and sunglasses gift. Jay says, what's up? I'm back for more. What's up, Jay? Matthias says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. Cheyenne says, so you ever get tired of doing these streams? Yes. Sunk says, guess my age based on past questions. I'm not gonna guess your age. Cade says, are you gay? I'm not gay. Bro says, hi, hope you had a great day. Thank you. AP says, let me drink water. You have my permission. Absurd says, I want to be a storm chaser. I can tell from your profile picture. Callow says, what's happening, big dog? Just reading messages. Verity says, I'm a big fan. Thank you. RM says, Sydney said, would he ever join the Somalian trade union? I would not. Quack super chats. Water, cold water, cold water, cold water, cold water. 1 second, please, as I drink water. Thank you for your patience. Pebble says, remember me? No. MR says, you look tired. Alright. Eugene says, I like guys. You do? Okay. Alright. Just a Mango says, boiling. Better drink now, boy. I did drink water. Big says, why do you do these streams, money? Dago says, spam 3 if Don is homophobic. I'm not homophobic. Thank you again, Quack, for your super chat. Timer extended. Ark says, hey, stepson, I love you very much. Thank you. The says, walruses are cute. Thoughts? No, they're ugly. Rocco says 3. I'm not homophobic. Kyoko says, hi, love your content. Keep going. Thank you. Doctor says, my idea for a company is to sell weapons illegally and scam the US government. I'm not into that. Thank you, Chance, for the Chuck E. Cheese coins. Jeff says, when will you address the fake water allegations? Never. The Real says, good idea is reselling. I know just reselling in general, that's pretty vague and unhelpful. Load says, I'm going to get you. No, you're not. Liam says J. Okay. Tree Monkey says, time me out, I'm leaking my address. No. Thank you, Leo, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Maddie says, who are we raiding today? We're not going to raid anyone until this stream reaches 3 hours long, which it hasn't yet. Quack Super Chats, hi. My name is Mr. Water, and I love water. Okay. I like water too. I'll drink some right now. 1 second, please. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. Alberto says, is your fan base all just guys? I think mostly. Takana says, yo, remember me? No. Peanut says, I will play with peanut butter, smothered dildo, until my anus prolapses. Okay. Thank you, Memo, and Reed, Moonlight for the gifts. Cappuccino says, rip my profile picture. Ice kills? What is that? Kareem says, I live in San Diego. Okay. Glitch says, do you like my profile picture? No, I do not. Thank you, Cosmo, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. User says, what brand is the water? It is Kirkland's Signature. Rocco says, ice. Okay. Fuss says, Scoobs. I don't know what that means. Thank you, Hunt, for the annoying disco gift. I appreciate it. Amy says, ice. Okay. Tree Monkey says something. No comment. User says Costco water. That's correct. Laffy says, what's your favorite show / movie? Eyes Wide Shut. Jay says, stop extending the timer now. I do it whenever I get gifts or super chats. Carson says, my parents lashed me and beat me when I told them I was a Therian. That's justified, to be honest. I'm just kidding, that's terrible. Quack says water, not right now. Sebastian says, is OCD genetic or temporary? I heard it was partly genetic. Unknown says hello, hello unknown. Michelle says Kubrick fan, yeah, I am. Rodolfo says, have you watched the new Spider-Man movie? No, I haven't. Thank you, Vox, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Jaden says, choose a number 1 to 100. 37. Gang says, hi, hello gang. Matthias says, why is 0.5? Because Roblox is for stupid children. Rosie says, hello, hello Rosies. YK says, do you know a guy named SK on your... That sounds familiar. It's me says, you are the new age Alfred Hitchcock. I wish. Tenny says, hi, hello Tenny. Bones says, Messi or Ronaldo? Messi. Gray says, are you okay, Don? Yes. Bike says, suck it. No. Cappuccino says, Ice 9 is my favorite band. Oh, it's a band? Okay. Alone says, which one is worse, The Amazing Digital Circus or Hazbin Hotel? Digital Circus is... I see Digital Circus everywhere. Like, it's too popular, so I'm gonna go with Digital Circus. Connor says, we must bring back segregation. I disagree with you. Thank you again to Vox for the Mecha Chameleon gift, and Quack for the super chat. Velk says what? What? Toro says what? What is it? Black Sea says Dairy Queen or Baskin Robbins. Dairy Queen. Thank you, Teal, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. DW says, are you happy with your life? Yes. Muscle says, I need tie rods for my truck. I hope you get them. Perry says, do you like cookies? Yes. Thank you, Vincent, for the gift and sunshine. Jenny says, hi. Hello, Jenny. Rylan says, what would it take you to eat a meat mountain from Arby's on stream? $3,000. Olivia says, do you like beavers? I do. Their building skills are impressive. Just says, help. Okay. Jaya says, why? Just raid someone already. If we raid someone, it's gonna be like an hour and 10 minutes until we do that. The first captain says, hi, Stonefish. Hello, the first captain. By the way, the first captain, I've been thinking about like making a Discord server, but I guess I could just take over your Discord server if you give me permission. Cute says, rate my profile picture. Oh, 2. Creepy. Ghost says, what do guy do for work? I don't talk about my work. Bone Zone says, Hamilton or Vax Verstappen? Verstappen. 2L says, do you remember me? Yes, I remember seeing your dog with the weird eye. Pancake says, hi, hello, Pancake. Bike says, do you believe in Jesus Christ? No, I don't. Thank you, Hunt, for the 3 Mecha Chameleon gifts. John says, hi, hello, John. Beanie says, I like pee-pee poo-poo. Alright. Lilith says, are the comments brain rot? Yeah, mostly. Fatima says, you look good when you smile, thank you. And thank you, Hunt, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Noelle says, do you even have fun doing these streams? Yeah, I do. Sage says, I finally hit 2,000 subscribers. Oh, congrats. Just a Mango says, Toro, can I be in a video? He makes videos? V4 says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's a cool flower. Turo says, Ma, tell you some, man. Let me guess, you don't like naps. Thank you, Tilly, the editor, for the Laughing Disco gift. I appreciate it. By the way, when you gift, you increase the timer. Like, just right now, that it just increased by like 2 minutes, so thank you. Grady says, rate my profile picture. 1. Sleeping says, drugs are bad. Yes, they are. Slurpee says, hi. Hello, Slurpee. Rippin says, can you say fishy? There you go. Min says, my school cooks the food at negative 77,000 degrees Kelvin. That's not possible. Ulock says, you like fish? No. Thank you again, Tilly the editor. Shadow says, can you shout me out? No. I hate you. Devin says, what's your favorite color? Gray. Blake says, if you had to pick one food for the rest of your life, well, a candidate would be the In-N-Out cheeseburger. Pokey says, hi. Hello, Pokey. Hawk says, your school cooks your food? I guess it does for that guy. Thank you, SoCal, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. And thank you again, Tilly, for the annoying disco. Alfie says he missed a super chat. Yeah, I did. Quack super chats $1. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. Jaylene says you're mean. Okay. Rev says my favorite color is also gray. You and I are rare. Brooklyn says, can I please have a chicken nugget? I don't have any chicken nuggets on hand. Thank you, Milani, for the Mega Chameleon gift. Zinx says Miel. Okay. Sage says, bro, why do you have to do my voice like that? Because that's the vibe I got. Dr. Dookie says, can you not shout me out? Sounds good. Ama says, my school doesn't have breaks. Okay. Thank you, the official, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. And Melanie for the... WR says, I'm a princess at war. Okay. Benjamin says, chicken sandwich. Yes or no? Yes. Astro says, since you're left-handed, what's your keybinds? I'm not left-handed. Thank you, Down with the System, for the 6-7 gift, and Quack. Quack super chats. My favorite color is water. Because of that, I'll drink water. 1 second, please. Thank you, Quack. Timer extended. Poopy says, do you wash your hands after pooping? Yeah. Timmy says, Jew, gay. Alright. A says, what are you rating? I'm not rating. Ratman says, do you live in your mom's basement? No comment. Michael says, hi. Hello, Michael. Thank you, Melanie, for the 100. And this is a stay for the preschool star. RM says, the Somalian president wants to buy you any car of your choice. I'd be happy with a 2027 Honda Civic. Grady says, do you like Minecraft? Yeah, I do. Ramon super chats, bro. If you can't show the hog, can you at least show the outline? No. I am not showing my outline of my penis. Timer extended. McKenna says, if you had to pick out of Weezer or Cordis, who would you pick? Weezer. Alex says, I want to be a storm chaser. Okay. Thank you, Jarvis, for the 6-7 abomination gift. Cooper says, do you like taking dit in the butt? No, I don't. Ross says, the Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity. Okay. Rival says, hi. Hello, Rivals. Thank you, Sawyer Williams, for the John Lennon cat. Pomni says, I ate your balls. No, you didn't. Hi says, can I speak Japanese? You can, but I won't understand you. Liver says, I'm going to bed. Good night. Cappuccino says, have an amazing day. You too. Teal says, Ramon deserves a shout out for his dedication to the hog. Maybe, but I'm not gonna give it. Your Hunger says, Hungry Games. Okay. NYC says, how much do you make per stream usually? I make like $30 an hour streaming. Kaz says, Bombaclat Wallahi 67 tongue to her. Alright. Thank you, Miku, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin, and Sawyer for the John Lennon cat. Big says count to 1 million. No, that's boring. Portal says broke. Okay. Jared says, do you remember me? No, I don't. Quack super chats, bye. But remember, water. Okay. Water. 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 I'll drink some water. Goodbye, Quack. Thank you, Quack, for your reminders about hydration. Timer extended. Crew says, you know sex toy dildo? Yeah, I know those things. Elliot says hi. Hello, Elliot. Dominic says emoji. Alright. Altac says heh. Okay. Lana says, can you play Roblox by any chance? Hell no. Halma says, do you like Guns N' Roses? Not really. Thank you, Q Trixie, for the GG gifts. The two of them, thank you. Derpy says, you sound like that one YouTuber. Okay. Alone says, do you like the Beatles? Yes. God says, Jesus loves you, buddy. Thank you. And thank you, Toes, for the 6-7 abomination. Chudgy says, okay. Alright. L says, something suspicious. Alright. Cosmically says, how are you today? I'm fine. Flix says, message retracted. Okay. Portal says, play, steal a brain rot. Pay me $10,000. Alexis says, hi, this is my type shit. Awesome. The Kyoko says, do you like Deftones? I haven't listened to them before. Rachel says, good night. I'm gonna go listen to music. See you, Rachel. Katie says, can go onto mic live. I don't know what you're saying. J-Man says, hola. Hello, J-Man. Your Hunger says, Team PETA or Team Asterisk? PETA. Joe says, you live in a house? No comment. Dr. Dookie says, no raid today. Only if we stream for another hour and a half. In that case, I'll do a raid. Yoshi says, ML movie, The Secret Door. Okay. Thank you, The Sketcher, for the press F. Atticus says, yo, hello, Atticus. Penguin says, do you know I'm a penguin? Yeah, because of your profile picture. B says, salute emoji. I kind of look like that, to be honest, right now. Delusional says, do you enjoy doing this? Yes. Sunizia says, what's up? Hello, Sunizia. The first captain says, come on, guys. Don clearly lives in a Minecraft sand block. Maybe. By the way, the first captain, should I make my own Discord server, or should I just commandeer yours? Jacob says, I just had a goon. Okay. Prozo says, you still not like cars? I still don't. RM says, if you show the tip, I'm not doing that. No way. No money. Thank you again, The Sketcher, for the press F, and Toes for the 67. Pug says, rate my profile picture. I can't tell what's happening. Rob says, are you hungry? Yes. Just a mango says, fake dollars for you, Don. 500. Okay. Overspray says, how long is this social experiment? I don't know. It could last months, maybe years. Durf says, have you tried Soulframe? No. I remember seeing the trailer like a few years ago. Thank you, Sunizia, for the preschool star. The Scotty says, yo, hello, Scotty. Emmett says, Don, you're back. I don't care about my back. Fran says, who's your favorite F1 driver? Verstappen. Katie says, can you go into Miku Live now? Thank you, Tropical, for the preschool star. Amu says, what is your favorite drink? Coke. Moonlight says, love the background, thank you. Luker says, hi, hello, Luker. Nyla says, what happens when the timer ends? I end the stream. Fran says, yippee. Okay. Thank you again, Quack, for the super chat. And, Tropical for the Mecha Chameleon gift, and Sakana. Carlos says, remember me? I do not, but your profile picture is interesting. RM says, I already read that. Fatima says, recommend me some profile picture. How about... I'm not gonna lie, I think I like your profile picture. It's kind of creepy, but also cute at the same time. The first caption says, you can have mine, but we would need to discuss details because if it were like the Minecraft server, then it would just be unmodified for months. We need to discuss details? Like, why do you care? Like, are you worried I'm not gonna do a good job? Like, Kratson says, y'all, Miku is 16 weirdos. Okay. Hi, I'm Spade says, play Taku na Tachisun one day. Probably not. Hey Ball says, it's better to come in the sink than sink in the cum. Okay. Be Mad says money. Okay. By the way, the first captain, I'm thinking of totally, like, remodeling the Discord server and doing something weird. Like, there's not gonna be a general... It's gonna be a weird server, so maybe you can just keep yours if you want to. Maybe that'd be better. Carlos says, thank you for the 1,000, Carlos. What? AR says, can you give me some live streaming tips? Stream in this vertical format because you get more viewers. On YouTube, that is. Tropical Elf Super Chats. Bro has W vibes. I saw you listening to the music bot in the Minecraft Discord. Thank you. I was doing that. That's interesting that someone mentioned that. I was in the Minecraft Discord VC listening to music. Timer extended. AI says, are you gay? I am not gay. Here says, you look like you're having a good day. I am. Marlon says, who's the best soccer player of all time? Messi. Elijah says, hope you're having a good day. You too, Elijah. Blake says, if you had to pick one place in the world to learn their culture and language and eat their food for a year, where would it be and why? Yeah. I would like to choose, like, an underrated place, like, maybe, like, I think I would just choose it random. Like, I literally would, like, roll the dice. Maybe, like, Serbia. 67 says, boys, hi. Marlon says, who is the best basketball player? Kobe. Random says, more time. I only do that when people super chat or gift. Lacey says, red face emoji. Okay. Bike says, why don't you believe in Jesus Christ? Because the Holy Spirit doesn't speak to me. Thank you, Kenzie, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Snow says, do you like Donnie Darko? I thought it was an okay movie. YK says, do you know someone named SK? No. Thank you, No, for the John Lennon cat. I appreciate it. Sage says, what's your favorite anime? Spirited Away. Sergeant says, do your parents know you're gay? No. Elephant says, duh. Okay. Peanut says, I was born December 12th, 2019. That's impossible. Hamburger says, can you sit on my face? I'm not doing that. Clayton says, take a shower. Not right now. Marco says, dick. Okay. Thank you again, Tropical, for the $5 American. Femboy says, can you rub barbecue sauce on your feet and let me lick it off? No, that's insanely gross. Olia says, can you collab with me? It depends what the collab would look like. DW says, GH, I'll be there in your ear. What? AN says, why are you doing this social experiment? For money. Clayton says, I farted. Okay. Viper says, toenails. Alright. Ephraim says, are you team STB? Stop the brain rot? I am not. That's too... If you're here, if you're in the stream, you're pro brain rot. You may not think you are, but you are. If you're watching YouTube Shorts, you're pro brain rot. Thank you, No, again, for the John Lennon cat. Mosh says hi. Hello, Mosh. Clayton says, what's your favorite color? Gray. Unknown says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. Stupid hype beast profile picture. Here says BBC. Okay. Franz says, remember to stay hydrated. Thank you for the reminder. Tropical Elf super chats. You accepted my friend request, so that's how I knew. Not a stalker, I promise. Also, do you actually have plans for a Discord? Yes, I do. I have an interesting Discord server idea. I mean, yeah, what I should say is an unusual Discord server idea. Wutan says, what is the social experiment? You guys, I don't know what you guys are going to say. Void says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. Thank you, Mittley, for the floating heart, and Sanugia for the sparkles. Clayton says, ball ride. Okay. Thank you, Tropical. Timer extended. Davey says, you seen the new Spider-Man? No, I haven't. Elias says, yo, can you say, ejaculate on me? There you go. Mr. Monkey says, bro, what is wrong with people? I don't know. Thank you, No, for the 67 abomination. Brian says, Cluckenbell or Burger Shot? Which one? Burger Shot. Gavioli says, are you related to the J Schlatt incident? No, I'm not. Glitchy says, you like your long hair? Yes. Drew says, tell chat about last night, how I had you gripping the sheets begging me to stop. No, because that wasn't me. Nug says, you like brain rot? Yes. Cold Slayer says, are you rating? No. Thank you, Secret and Mittley, for the Mecha Chameleon gifts. Turo says, let me tell you something, man. I take naps, man. That's for the fucking birds. Like you're napping while the whole world is moving. I think naps are good. Unknown says, bro, it's a Corvette worth more than 35k. I know. Pyro says, what's the best shape? The square. M1 says, some of these people are genuinely disgusting in chat. Yeah, that's true. The first captain says, I'd rather have you take mine. I just want a synopsis of what would happen. I'm also scared of procrastination. A synopsis? I'm not going to give you a synopsis. ML says, can you say Melody or Adrian forever? No. AL says, I think I found your house. No comment. Thank you, Mittley, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin, and Cell for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Chubby says, do you like anime? I do not. Ryan says, how do you feel about corn dogs? I haven't eaten one for as long as I can remember. Like, I probably have, but it's been like a decade or two. Dr. Dookie says, what is your favorite movie? Eyes Wide Shut. J1 says, I just subscribed. Thank you. Tropical Elf Super Chats, here, enjoy another $5. Thank you, Tropical. I appreciate your $5. 15 in total, thank you. Timer extended. And thank you, Cell Edits, for the annoying disco gift. BB says Aruga. Okay. Dalton says, are you vegan? No. Elephant says, duh. Okay. Mr. V says, do you remember me? I do not. Kratson says, what is your favorite music type? I like electronic music. Thank you, Sal, for the 67 gift. The Scott says, do you know J-Shock? No, I don't. Marco says, Nike or Adidas? Nike. Nuglet says, why are so many people asking sex questions? Because it can be funny. Thank you, Goofy Goober, for the John Lennon cat. I appreciate it. Dylan says, hello. Hello, Dylan. United says, penises and anus. Alright. Lies says, do you do sex? No comment. Jackson says, what's your opinion on suicidal thoughts? I think suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I dislike suicide. Thank you, Eileen for the stupid waddling dog. I appreciate it. The corgi. Thank you, Eileen. Nebula says rate my profile picture. 1. Aiden says hi you. Hello Aiden. Jumbo says I'm subscribed. Oh, thank you. Gino says remember me? Yes. Thank you, Goofy Goober, for the moldy sundae. Jackson says I like your choice in what? Peanut says am I weird for masturbating to Family Guy incest? Yes. Himself says W. Thank you. And thank you, Cell Edits, for this shopping cart. A pink shopping cart with the confetti. Interesting. SG says, do you remember me? I donated 300. I don't remember that. I remember your messages from earlier, but not your super chat. Thank you, Bamboozle, for the stupid turtle drinking water. I'll drink some water myself right now. Thank you, Bamboozle. Enver says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's cute. Jack. Oh, speaking of that. Speaking of turtles, that guy sent a turtle gift. Thank you, Chase. I just drank water, so I don't think I need to drink more. AN says, this experiment must be deeper. It's mostly for money. Zinc says, spit it out. Spit what out? Don Benitez says, do you remember your Soviet brother? I remember you. Huff says, bro, is so sad. I'm not sad. DW says, is Jamal banned? There's nobody banned. Gaming says, I was here a few hours ago. Remember me? Yes, I do. Nug says, E. Okay. Day says, shut the fuck up, asshole. Lol, JK. Okay. FC says, do you collect stuff? No, I don't. Omni says, rate my profile picture. 1. Naner says, hi, hello, Naner. Balls says, new setup? No. Cody says, you like 67? A little bit. Thank you, Chase, for the annoying disco gift. I appreciate it. Cody says, you like 67? I already answered that. Jude says, what are you on? H2O. Chicken sandwiches. Tisha says hello. Hello, Tisha. Prod says, what's your favorite season? Fall. McSpiny says, how did you set up so you can make the chat message appear on screen? Live chat overlay. It's a Google Chrome extension. Mr. Light says, do you like World Cup? I do not. Nuglet says, something is coming in 3 days. I hope something good. Some dude says, I know people say this a lot, but do you remember me? I vaguely remember your profile picture. Johnny says, how is your day going? It's going fine. Bowlcut says, just so you know, my haircut still sucks. Okay. Thank you again, Eileen, for the waddling stupid dog, the corgi. Thank you, Eileen. Dillet says, do you have other content? No. Cell says, what superpowers? What do you get? Free internet would be cool. Like my body could be your router. That might be cool. Rippin says, hey Violet. Hello Rippin. Random says, rip my profile picture. Oh, that's really cute. Those cats are adorable. Thank you, the OG, for the feces. Kratson says, do you listen to Vocaloid? No, not at all. I don't like Miku. Yaz says, you like e-bikes? No, I don't. AY says, bro grew his hair. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. B says, have you watched The Walking Dead? I've seen 8 seasons. Elephant says, duh. Okay. Room Life says, rate my profile. SpongeBob. 4. Axel says, rate my... Well, that's terrible looking. Some dude says, well, who will you be rating when the stream ends? I don't know if I will be rating. Dark says, hello. Hello, Dark. 8th says, rate my profile picture 1 to 10. That's an interesting style. I'd give it a 6. Alexander says, rate my... Oh, that's a cute dog. Intense eyes. 67 says, opinions on the video game Ultra Kill. I haven't played it. Don says, what state are you in? None of your business. Jumbob says, can I get a shout out? Please. I'm trying to grow my small channel. No. Turo says that Hank Propane Hill clips these streams sometimes. Oh, he does? That's cool. Day says, later, dude. I'm gonna continue my Beavis and Butthead marathon from yesterday. Enjoy yourself. Thank you, T, for the feces. Your Hun says, my friend wants you to goon. Well, his wish is in futility. Y2 says, can I get a shout out? No, I hate you. Oscar says, do you like my profile picture? No. Cash says, rate my profile picture. Hype Beast Slop. Yakan says, did you see the new Spider-Man movie? No. Project says, hello. Hello, Project. Kratson says, what's your favorite song? I like the song Ascension Bloodlines. Thank you, TS, for the feces. I appreciate it. Zaid says, how many subs you got? Why don't you take a look for yourself? Flora says, don't read this. I failed. Kellen says, are we rating? If this stream reaches 3 hours long, we'll do a raid. B says, do you like Carl Grimes? No. Dutch says, rate my profile picture. 1. Cody says, why do you do this? Money. Nug says, do you think it's okay to bomb Gaza? No comment. Kratson says, rate your profile picture. I would give my own a 6. Thank you, hi Jack, for all the feces you've been sending. Thank you. Y2 says, bro, why were you rude to me? Probably because you said something stupid. YC says, rate my profile picture. That's an interesting character. A hog? Or is that a bat? It looks cool. ASMR says, why is your water unlabeled? Because I ripped off the label. Sergeant says, Dawn, do you play Counter-Strike? No, I don't. Thank you, Tom, for the feces. Dawn says, were you sad when Dale died? No comment. Hanzo says, what was the last graphic novel you read? Well, I remember one time I was at the public library and I pulled a random book off the shelf, and it was this book called Homestuck. I think that's a graphic novel. But yeah, I looked at it for like 30 seconds. I thought it was really weird and corny. ZZ says, go to sleep. No. The Goat says, are you gay? No, I'm not. Jumbo says, my dog just died. Oh, I'm sorry. Cess says, you like my username? Cess? Cool? Not particularly. Lawturn says, when we will be rating a streamer, it's gonna be one moment when we will be rating a streamer. Yeah, I'm gonna spam that voice line a lot. Rylan says, what is your favorite thing to consume besides water? Coke. Gabriel says, are you still loose from last night? You got the wrong person. The First Captain says, Homestuck started out as a webcomic. My friend was obsessed with it in middle school. A webcomic. Okay. Thank you, Jovan, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Enver says, you're the best. Thank you. Corey says, I was not here. Why is the time 30 minutes? Because whenever I get super chats or gifts like this, the timer goes up. Cody says, get on your knees. No. Delete Cabal super chats. Rate profile picture. Do you have other content? No, I do not. Your profile picture? I don't get what's happening. Like, I see the the red sign, like you don't like that thing. I don't know what that thing is though, like that guy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand your profile picture. Like, what are you against? Is that Apex Legends? I don't know what that is. Room says 31.5k subscribers. Okay. Camus says, do you watch anime? No, I do not. Thank you, Delete Cabal. Timer extended. Sage says, can you rate my profile picture, please? Too cute looking. Don says, who will win, Merle or Daryl? Merle. LFC says, How do you keep calm under so much hate? I don't view like I don't get hate comments in my opinion. Rand says, what was your first car? Sorry, I'm not gonna say. MJ says, I think honey buns are very good. Yeah, they are good. Johnny says, have you watched the new Spider-Man movie? I haven't. Jackson says, homosexual couple emoji. Okay. Halo says, did you raid the YouTuber? Which one? I raid them all the time. Owen says, W background, thank you. Jumbo says, can I get a shout out please? No, you're an idiot and your YouTube channel probably sucks. KC says, you're awesome, hope you're doing well, thank you. And thank you the best for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Owen says, W background, yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Rand says, rate my username. Rand's Do Stars. I don't know what that means. So, yeah, it just sounds like nonsense to me. I don't think I can rate it. I don't know says, why have you not been streaming? That's private. Director says, stop being so fucking rude. No promises. Fran says, remember to stay hydrated. Thank you. Delete says, it's Cabal from Mortal Kombat and I hate him. Okay, it's a character from Mortal Kombat. Okay. Delete Cabal. You want him removed from the game? I'm guessing he's like overpowered. Araceli says W back. Yeah, thank you. Sayal says, what's your IQ? I don't know. I haven't taken a test. Probably average. Lindsay says, yo, hi, have a great day. You too. Toro says, what do you call a Mexican that lost his car? Carlos. Oh, that's pretty funny. Thank you again, Delete, for your super chat, and it's best for the Mecha Chameleon gift. 67 says, holy crap, verified. Okay. Alone says, do you like the Beatles? Yeah, I do. Jackson says, confetti emoji. Okay. Dresden says, who do you support, Ukraine or Russia? Ukraine. Aiden says, hi. Hello, Aiden. Pyro says, what should I watch for lunch? Watch? You mean eat? I suggest a turkey provolone sandwich. Krobo says, rate my profile picture. 1. Thank you, Alan, for the W gift. 1 second, please. I'm doing something. Okay, I'm back now. Peanut says, do you have a sibling? Sorry, I keep that private. Laturn says, glad you're back streaming again. Thank you. Taunt says, if you had one wish, what would you do? I'd wish to make me and my whole family healthy. Jumbo says, can you rate my profile picture? 0.1. Nico says, do you like my dog? No, that's horrifying. Pretty says, favorite music genre. Electronic. ZZ says, do you like cat's eye? No, I do not. Casey says, what other things do you do? I doom scroll. Jacob says, you seem super smart. Thank you. Jumbo says, why are you so rude to me when I said my dog died? I don't think I was rude. I don't think I don't see how your dog dying is relevant. I never said anything bad about your dog. Lot Turn says, that's a good answer. Okay. NN says, yo, remember me? No, I do not. Who Dat says, you look depressed. Okay. Y2 says, are you a chud? What do you mean by that? Thank you, Alan Roberts, for the press W. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Yor says, continue to be rude. I love it. I probably will. 3D says, if you're reading this, you're gay. Your chat message doesn't have that power. Dresden says, water time. In 5 minutes. Tom says, well, sends a feces. Thank you, Tom. Director says, smile. Not right now. Gamer says, am I Timmy Tough Knuckles? No. Nan says, rate my profile picture. Oh, wow, that's me as a cute cat boy streamer. Makes me uncomfortable. By the way, that picture is never going to become a reality. That's... Johnny says, rate my profile picture, please. Oh, that's 7. SoCal says, I'm new. Hello, SoCal. Jackson says, whatever that is. A's says, bro, taking inspiration from Rick Grimes with the hair. Yeah, I guess so. I play says, are you cool? Well, I try to be. Mr. says, bro, with Socrates reincarnated. What? Director says, written profile picture. Looks like AI slop. Melvo says, oil up. I'm not doing that. Rui says, written profile picture. 1. Juan says, you're rude. You've got bad English. Uppy says, read me plus and W content. There you go. And thank you. And thank you Goob and Fetty for the Mecha Chameleon gifts. I appreciate it. Fran says, do you think it's possible for Max Verstappen to beat Kimi and Lewis Hamilton? I think it is. Yes. Lawturn says, do you read any comics? No, I do not. Fetty says, rate my profile picture. 1. Yor says, can you shout out my asshole before I leave? No, sorry. Thank you, the best cats and vids, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Arcelli says 67. Okay. Zero says, what's your favorite game? Well, I don't know, but I can tell you right now that the only game I'm playing right now is called Lucid Blocks. Dono says, do you remember me? I do not. Director says, my grandmother just died. Oh, I'm sorry. Room says, do you like cheese? Yes. Casey says, guys, stop taking things personal. I agree. Nen says, bro, you got to remember me. No, I do not. Jennifer says, shut up, please. No. Fran says, finally someone who thinks the impossible is possible. To be honest, I don't know anything about NASCAR or any of that. I just chose a random option of yours. Luminous says, what's the capital of France? Paris. Spy says, remember me now? No, I do not. Arjun says, rate my profile picture. It's kind of funny. Maybe you don't intend that to be the goal, but I'm sorry if that's offensive. Thank you, Dark Dub, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. I play says, look behind you. Why? Peanut says, every time I see you, I uncontrollably start masturbating. Oh, that's crazy. Thank you, Stick, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Yor says, I'm not leaving until you shout out my butthole. No, that's gross. Maybe if you give me money, though. Director says, say him. There you go. Noob says, bro, you skipped my entire text, bro. Yeah, I only read messages until a point is made, usually. Fran says, still counts. Okay. Ekim says, how are you doing, like, for real? For real. I'm doing just fine. Thank you. LTZ says, popcorn emoji. Okay. Ethan says, Jesus King. Alright. Nico says, my bad. Wrong photo. This is my dog. Do you like it now? Yeah, that's a cute dog. What kind of dog is that? Can you tell me? I'll be right back. I'm gonna be back in like 2 minutes. 1 second. Thank you for your patience. And thank you, K. Dean, for the John Lennon cat. Dono says, shower, you've been brainwashed. Didn't work. Sky says red face emoji. Okay. Spyling says it's only fair to add 2 minutes to the timer. Dude, I don't know. It's only 2. I don't really want to. Gamer says, please rate my profile picture out of 10. 3. Hayden says, Dawn, it's water time. Another 5 minutes. Fazy says, guys, spam. Oh, that's annoying. Futuristic says, fix your collar, please. Looks pretty normal to me. Ramon says, any attempt to cover the hog whilst standing is futile. I'm just distracted by the fact that you use the word whilst. I don't see that often. Gamer says, thank you. You're welcome. And thank you again, K. Dean, for all of the gifts. K. Dean. The first captain says, bro is not a fish. He does not need water every 4 minutes. That's right. Chillin says, the sun got stuck up in the sky while Lazy Don ate pizza pie. Oh, that was cute. Peter says, are you gay? No. K. Dean super chats $2 American. Thank you. K. Dean 4612. Fran says, can you rate my profile picture, please? 6. But he looks pretty cool. But yeah, thank you, K. Dean. Timer extended. Jackson says, guess what? I, Jackson, Unk, Stinky, Terrifying, Wanting, Steam, 20. What are you saying? Bernard says, John Reed. Okay. BB says, how many times a stream are you asked for gay? Probably 300. Nahome says, please shout out. No, leave the stream, I hate you. Bill Bob says, favorite NFL player? Tom Brady. John says, my name, John, what's yours? Don. Lawturn says he broke character. Oh, I did? Okay. Dono says, what is your objective in life? Objective? To make interesting videos. Thank you. It's Zeno for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Zeno, thank you. Aura says, what's your favorite animal? The human. User says, are you straight? Yeah. Wesley says, rate my profile picture. I can't tell what that is. Thank you, Mimi is cool for the Mecha Chameleon. John says, if you don't say I like did, then you like did. I don't know what you're saying, but it sounds stupid. Icon says, what's your favorite food? The cheeseburger. The Real says, thoughts on new Spider-Man movie? I don't care to watch Spider-Man. Maybe Doomsday, though. Thank you, Nando, for the John Lennon cat. Nando. Thank you. Ramon says 2 minutes of pee-pee time costs someone $8. That's pretty funny. I mean, I don't. It's never mind. I'm only a little corrupted. It's not that bad. Benjamin says I'm goofy. Yeah. Okay, Benjamin. Kez says hi. Hello, Kez. Sky says I can see you hit 1 million subs. Probably not. Bob says, do you like my profile picture? No, it's creepy. Your mom says your mother wipes away my waste, then eats me. No comment. C says, what does Ramon mean? He was talking about my, how I left the stream. Never mind. Elizabeth says, hello, I'm dog. Yeah, I can see that. Thank you, newbie, for the 28, 30, 100s. Ronan says, rate my profile picture. I don't like that cartoon style. Gas says, do you like my bike? Is that a bike? I can't even tell. It's Easy says, do you like the World Cup? No, I do not. Gooler says, what do you mean? Never mind. Never mind. Thank you, newbie, for the 40, 71, 73, 100s. Yor says, I can't believe you would really shout out my brown eye. You're such a slut for money, dude. Yeah, somewhat, but not completely. Alone says, if I draw you, is there any way I can show you? On Discord, yeah, you can friend me on Discord. Thank you, Planny, for the Uncle Alert gift. I appreciate it. Rand says, rip my profile picture. Oh, that's... I have a soft spot for minions for some reason. So yeah, it's nice. Ghost says, do you like my profile picture? No, it's Hype Beast Slop. Nathan says, remember me? No, I do not. Ucko says, you are a gay Discord mod. Not gay, but I am a Discord mod, I think. Rock says, big. Okay. Socrates says, is this stream goon friendly? Yes, it is. Friend says, is this new music? No. Snow says, can you do Lying Dawn? That's a good idea. I'll do that after I take a sip of this water. 1 second, please. For the record, I'm gonna insert lies here and then for the next 5 minutes. Thank you again, Planny, for the Uncle Alert. Nip says, why do you look disabled? I don't know. Ethan says, I like femboys. Me too. Sunky says, rate my profile picture, please, and shout out. Your profile picture is cool. Isn't that Cat's Eye? I like Cat's Eye. Spy says, you know Mr. Beast got famous by doing the same type of silly stuff. Are you next? I am not next. He loves YouTube, and I don't have a love for YouTube. Not Ray says hi. Hello, Not Ray. Lucas says uwu. Okay. The first captain says, thanks for the bag of oats you sent yesterday. You're welcome. Sport says, you have a Discord. There's a fan Discord server that I'm in, but you can just add me as a friend. My Discord username is in my YouTube bio. Hey, says, rate my profile picture, please. Oh, that's cool. That's a 9. You guys look cool. Thank you, Andrad, for the super chat. Andrad super chat's Dawn. Salute emoji. Thumbs up emoji. Thank you, Andrad. Timer extended. Absurd says, oh my god, this is like playing Twisted in Roblox. Yeah, it is. I know exactly what you're talking about. Nico says, West Highland Terror. Okay, thank you for answering me. I forgot. Thank you. Someone says, day 4 of asking if you like chocolate. I love chocolate. Bandman says, do you remember me? I remember your name. Thank you, Andrad, for the John Lennon cat. I appreciate it. Thank you, Andrad. Rand says, want to see my truck? It will be my profile picture, sure. The Best says, you like Seer decks? I don't know what that is. Pedro says, can you try to sing? No. Dr. Mario says, what the fuck is going on? I am... this is a pre-recorded stream. Ethan says, I have something. Okay. Gray says, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Francisco says, do you like my profile picture? Yeah, I love it. Shreo says, Reyes. Okay. Michael says, hi, please rate my profile picture, honestly. Oh, is that Michael Jordan? He's the GOAT. I really like the Michael Jordan's bald look. I like his skills and his appearance. Martinez says, what is your favorite anime? One Piece. Gracie says, you like tacos? I do. The director says, sorry. Sorry for what? Aura says, have you seen Minions and Monsters? Yeah, I have. The first captain says, this is the LARPing Dom Benitez channel, right? Yeah, it is. Rock says, do you support Trump? No comment. Kesleen says, Black Panther, do you like the movie? Yeah, I do. I love Marvel movies. Tree says, neighbor. Okay. The Island says, do you love Lebanon? Yeah, great culture. I've been there. Commander says, vagina is hairy. Okay. YK says, booga. Booga. Okay. Thank you, Greenboro, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Joe says, smile. Claire says, I support pizza. Me too. LFC says, read this if I should kill myself. Don't do that. Isaac says, do you love your supporters? Yeah, I love them. I'll do anything for my viewers. You guys are... I love you guys. Fran says, what's your favorite thing to do on your free time? I love to go roller skating. RJ says, what's your favorite game? My favorite game is Call of Duty Warzone. I play that a lot. Jeremy says, have you ever been recognized in public? Yeah, I have. Penguin says, can you be my friend? Yeah. Aren't we already friends? I love you, dude. We're already friends. Pioli says, remember me? I do. Spy says, you seem more happy today. Am I imagining? No comment. Navy says, hi. Hello, Navy. Thank you again, Greenboro, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Cal says, can you please subscribe to me? I will do that after the stream, friend. Nino says, you sound like AI. No comment. Vlad says, sends a Mecha Chameleon. Thank you. Ben says, can you rate my profile picture, please? That's a 10. That's very artistic. I love it. Oliver says, please rate my profile picture and shout me out. What an awesome art style. That's a 10 too. Sports says, Don, will you shave your head for a $500 super chat? No comment. Josh says, friend, totally. You're my friend too. Thank you, Twix are yummy, for the John Lennon cat. You're my friend too. You guys are all my friends. I love my viewers. I'll do anything for my viewers. Yeah, thank you. Peanut says, do you think it would be fun to have sex with me while I'm playing Minecraft? Yeah, that sounds exotic. The first captain says, we're still in that lifelong rivalry ever since kindergarten. Yeah, right? Yeah, we are. Yeah, I still have my grudge. Shayo says, what's my name? Guess it. You have 10 tries. Michael. Emmett says, you a chud? I am. Thank you, Twix, for the moldy Sunday. Cal says, want to play Minecraft? Yeah, I do. Yeah. Nico says, do you think RDR1 is better than RDR2? Yeah. Well, actually, no. I think RDR2, Arthur Morgan is superior. Micah's a great villain. I think RDR2 is better. Tate says, why do you have a lisp? If I do, it's very minor. Eli says, are you black? I am black. Thank you, Yave, for the clapping seal. I appreciate it. AB says, hi. Hello, AB. SC says, you seem happy today, Don. Do you have a good day? Yeah, I did. Enver says, rate my profile picture. 1. Actually, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Scream, I love Scream. I'm gonna give that a 10. Anna says, whatever that is. Michael says, I subbed. I fell off on here. I can't even hit 100 viewers. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe we could collab. I love collabs. Aura says, was Minion and Monsters good? Yeah, it was. Turo says, I thought you said you haven't seen Scream. No, I've seen it. I love Scream. I love all the movies, all the Screams. Nico says, mountain vacation or beach? Mountain vacation. Andrew says, if you're black, say the N-word. Don't tell me what to do. Pioli says, yo, you happy today? Why? No comment. Hello says, I like your videos. I'm a big fan. Thank you. I love you. Mister says, hi. Hello, Mister. Hayden says, how many Scream movies are there? There are 8. Noodle says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's awesome. A cat man. That's a 10 right there. Rand says, I like it. Yeah, your truck is cool. Icon says, like my profile picture, it's cat's eye. I do. Yeah, that's my favorite member of Cat's Eye right there. Thank you again, Auburn, for the preschool star. IGN says, do you believe in God? Yeah, I'm a Christian. Cal says, want to play Minecraft right now? You can add me on Discord if you want. Turo says, there are exactly 7 Scream movies and 1 MTV show. Well, I was counting the show, so. The first captain says, I haven't seen Minions and Monsters, but I did watch Toy Story 5, and Pormer 2 scored a huge role in the movie. Oh, he did? That's interesting. Thank you, Epic Man, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Kelzine says, exactly how I don't know what to do with... I don't know what you're saying. Claire says, I saw minions and monsters in 3D. Oh wow. User says, Christian Benitez, that's me. But not anymore. For the record, for the past 5 minutes or so, I've been lying a lot. I said I was Christian earlier. I'm not Christian. I said I was playing a character for the past 5 minutes, but now I'm back to my normal self now. Mr. Miyata says, you're amazing, thank you. 0x says, can you tell me the back and front of your credit card? No, that's private. User says he converted, yeah. Andrew says he popped a couple of pills before stream, that's why he's so happy. No. Nico says he's black. He is black, it's just lighting, I'm not black. Lawturn says, bro, just be playing a character, yeah. Thank you again, Yave, for the clapping seal gift. LFC says raid anytime. If we do a raid, it'll be... Yeah, we'll do a raid in like half an hour. Around there. I'm handsome says pick a number 1 to 50. 27. Roblox says hi, hello Roblox. Mahim says hi, hello Mahim. I quit says Messi or Ronaldo. Messi. LFC says okay, thanks, you're welcome. IGN says, so you don't believe in God? No, I don't. I was lying earlier. Sorry. Lemon says I'm sub to you. Okay. Caldine says LeBron James or Michael Jordan. LeBron James. I quit says same. I don't know what you're talking about. Thank you, Rands, for the good luck, have fun. Pioli says, how you remember me, by the way. I think you were sending gifts a few streams ago, if I remember right. 1 second, please. I'm doing something. 1 second, please. Tyler says, lost a sub MJ all day. Michael Jordan. Okay. Something says, yo, does it stink? You keep covering your nose. I don't know why, but I have an urge to do that. Zitro says, do you have a sex toy dildo? No, I do not. John says, what's your favorite video game? Minecraft. Thank you, Little Da, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Roblox says, I'm back. Also, crapping seal. I said clapping, like clapping. Nico says, bro, damn, I thought I had a friend for a second. Sorry. No. Never mind. Jumper says, did you fart in your bathroom? No comment. Limone says, rate my profile picture. Is that a ninja cat? That's cute. Kesline says, LeBron or Kobe Bryant? LeBron. MJ says, how long the stream been going? It's been going for 2 hours and a half. Olivia says, Mercury is in Gatorade. No way. The first captain says, how is such a disproportionate amount of Don's viewer base Christian? I think it's just that there's a lot of humans that are Christian in general, you know? A lot of Americans and people in the first world are Christian. Pioli says, Fet's luck. Let's not do that. Matt Fitz says, Dih. Okay. Ollie says, you like the devil? Do I enjoy... like, what do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean. Spy says, yeah, we could tell. You're never this happy and positive, yeah. Dio says, wait, but what if you were black, but you used skin whitening cream? There's no skin whitening cream that is that powerful, so... Slick says, have you seen the new Spider-Man yet? No, I haven't. Cat Lynn says, rate my profile picture. Oh, hey, it's me. Kind of boring, though, just copying me. Turo says, he's not Michael Jackson. I'm not. Thank you, William, for the plastic flower. Joe says, I like Dih. Okay. Alright. Anyhow says, your current favorite perfume. I currently use a perfume called Dynamic Pulse. By the way, I am making an announcement right now. The timer is now locked. Super chats and gifts no longer increase the timer. By the way, we are definitely rating a streamer in 16 minutes. Andrew says, my girl eats my ass and jerks me off at the same time. Okay. Sam says, hey, what's up? Remember me? No, I don't. That one says, are you a child pornography lover? No, I'm not. Joel says, never mind. Okay. Ollie says, do you like Jesus or devil? Jesus, I guess. Abnormally says, what are your interests and hobbies? I like video editing. Thank you, Tina, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Peanut says, what's your favorite sex toy? No comment. Your says, I still think you're a good guy. At least you don't show your wiener for money. Thank you. I appreciate it. Eli says, are you black? No, I'm not. Oliver says, 17 years. Steve can sit. What? Martina says, do you play VR? No, I don't. Thank you, Tina, for the preschool star. Divine says, would you rather be pubeless or have a fat booty? No comment. Kesleen says, you like a skibbity toilet? No. James says, what is your favorite block in Minecraft? My favorite block is stripped logs. Ref says, can I crack? No, you may not. Abdul says, Allah or Jesus? I'm gonna go with Jesus. Abnormally says, do you play any games? I've been playing Lucid Blocks lately. Nano says, Series S or Switch 2? Series S. Thank you, Tina and Texas Prods for the Mecha Chameleons. Hazmat says, if your number was your net worth, I'm not giving that out. Thank you, Texas Prods, for the 6-7 Abomination. Killian says, does anyone like Minecraft? I do. Joe says, rate my di. No. Hun says, you travel a lot? No, I don't like travel. Not my thing. The Real says, the gays are at your front door. I think you got the wrong person. And Nano says, oh, thank you for the opinion. You're welcome. Andrad Solo Super Chats, are you staying hydrated? Yes, I am. I've drank a ton of water this stream. I could drink more right now, but I think I'm fine. Thank you, Andrad. Silly says, hey, how are you? I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Arceli says, read this beach. There you go. Mahim says, let there be mayhem. Okay. That sounds like something Satan would say. Isaac says, how big is it? How big is it? It's none of your business. Ollie says, are you gay or pansexual? Pansexual. I'm neither of those. Thank you, Ugga and Tina and Michaela for the gifts. Yor says, I'm done commenting. I'm gonna watch some Beavis and Butthead. Okay, enjoy your show. Mr. Tung Tung says, Family Guy or Simpsons? Definitely The Simpsons. The Simpsons is superior. The guy says, I'm gay. That's cool. Warmy says, bro, said he was pan. What? Inley says, what is your favorite thing to do? My favorite thing to do is to doom scroll. Oliver says, I meant the cushion update upcoming in Minecraft. Oh, I don't like it. Arthur says, what is your dream car? Honda Civic. Lemon says, rate my profile picture. I think I already did that. Why are you asking twice? Turo says, who was your favorite Ghostface? I haven't watched one Scream movie. Tongue says poo poo. Okay. Dog says, do you like brain rot? I mean, I don't like to admit it, but yeah. Fung says, favorite Minecraft sex toy? There's not sex toys in Minecraft. The First Captain says, have you seen the 2015 Minecon Dan DM videos? Yeah. I mean, I saw them like years ago when they originally were getting popular and funny, like when it first became a meme. Unk Peanut Super Chats, rate my profile picture. Oh, that looks corny. I mean, it's kind of funny though. Yeah. I'd give it a 5. Timer, actually, never mind. Yeah, thank you for the Super Chat, Unk Peanut. Voice says, rate my profile picture, please. I can't tell what's happening. Bryce says, opinion on Capri Sun. They're good. Thank you, Jacob Malone, for the Mecha Chameleon. Blondie says, you are so peak, thank you. Toof says, rate my profile picture. That's a 3. Rebel says, have a great day today. You too, Rebel. Corny says, hi, hello, Corny. Ryan says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's a cute dog and a cold bike. Liam says, I pooped. Okay. Alright. 1 second, please. Turo says, you just said you watched all 7 movies in the TV show. I did like a 5-minute period where I was playing a character, and I was lying a lot, and I said that when I was playing the character. The Glorified says, you look so hot, Bab. Thank you. Colt says, do you know who my profile picture is? I know it's a character from Brawl Stars. Icon says, what is my profile picture's name if they are your favorite? They're not my favorite. I don't like Cat's Eye. I hate Cat's Eye. I don't know says, what's your favorite movie? Eyes Wide Shut. Cologne says, hi. Hello, Cologne. ERL says, rate my profile picture. Cool. Landscape and bike. Thank you, Texas, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. Luciano says, favorite soccer player? Messi. K says, damn, imagine hating Cat's Eye. I don't have to. Darla says, hi. Hello, Darla. Rand says, what year Civic? I like cheap Civics from the 2000s. Get a job says, hi. Hello. Kelzine says, would you recommend pancakes or eggs? I prefer eggs. Project says, I'm gay. That's cool, Project. Marie says, hi. Hello, Marie. No Name says, smash or pass. Hangy from AOT. I haven't watched AOT. K says, Nirvana or Foo Fighters? Nirvana. Goofy says, me. Okay. By the way, guys, we are going to be rating a streamer in 11 minutes. Jade says, why is it like you're not saying my comments? Because there's lots of other people here. Sib says, can I have a free PC, please? No. Rodney says, hi. Hello, Rodney. Thank you, Tina, for the sparkles. Joshua says, do you Five Nights at Freddy's? Never played it. Cookie says, you might not remember me. Yeah, I don't. E-Bike says, yo, hello, E-Bike. Jackson says, I am gay. Alright, Jackson. Spooky says, F. Okay. Marie says, you're my favorite YouTuber. Thank you. ER says, Cat's Eye sucks. I just don't like K-pop, so that's why I say Cat's Eye sucks. Webb says, do you remember me? I do not. Thank you, Jace, for the 67 gift. Spy says, Double Dog, dare you to ban me. That's too much work. Webb says, do you remember me? No. Kesline says, I love your content. Thank you. George says, I hate K-pop. Yeah, same. Shadow says, low-key, I like Taylor Swift. Oh, wow. Can says, hi. Hello, Can. Glenn says, hi. Hello, Glenn. Ben says, will you follow me? No, not at all. I hate you. Mian says, do you like hentai? No comment. JD says, do you have toenail fungus? No. Collector says, that one guy had a good idea about super chats. I remember that. When people used to say that. Beluga says, hi, Daddy. Hello, Beluga. Thank you, Tina, for the feces. Quack says, water. Okay. 1 second as I drink some water. Thank you for your patience. Melanie says, hi, hello. Nova says, rate my profile picture. Hypebeast slop. Agent says, I have never rated a streamer. Well, you will in like 10 minutes if you stay. Thank you, Bubble Licked, for the marshmallow hand. Mr. Tongue says, do you like No Country for Old Men? Yes. Squiggles says, guess what game my profile picture's from? Gorilla Tag. Willow says, rate my profile picture. It's too dark. User says, alcohol. Okay. Chair says, you look tired. Well, I'm not tired. Cologne says, can you sub? No. I hate you. Spy says, why do you pronounce George as Jor? Because I'm trying to speak fast, and that happens sometimes. Collector Nick super chats, an oldie but a goodie. I had to bring it back. Thank you for bringing it back. Beluga says, Daddy, don't ignore me. I'm not ignoring you. Shorty says, how can I send super chats? I don't know, figure it out. Liam says, funky yeah. Okay. Zine says, funky yeah. Okay, alright. Chicken says, favorite Spider-Man actor? What's that guy's name? I don't remember. The one from like 2001. Steve says, hi. Hello, Steve. Rand says, if I send 50 bucks, can I be mod? No. Mary says, ooh, daddy. Okay. Fire says, what is that behind you? It's a fractal. K says, rate my profile picture. That's a cute creature. What is that? I want to say a mouse, but it's not a mouse. What? I don't know what that is. Jason says, you know Blue Lock? No. The Real says, read me the back of your credit card? No. Thank you, Tina, for the good luck, have fun, and Scary for the 7/100s. ERL says, why do you say I hate you when someone says, can you sub? Because that question is so unbelievably stupid that I just have to say that. Spy says, well, Jor is my IRL name. I'm scared, don't kill me. Oh, I won't kill you. Mr. Tongue says, do you know Geometry Dash? Yeah, I do. Me name says, is vulva a bad word? it's I mean, it's just as bad as vagina, I would say, or penis. Arse says 666-777. Okay. Peanut says, would you eat my poop straight from my hole if I held you at gunpoint? I'll cross that bridge if and when I get there. Ramon says, time for a stink test. Put your hand down there and then smell it. No, that's incredibly disgusting. Liam says, oh gosh. Okay. Shrek says, are you going to finish that croissant? I don't have a croissant. Gant says, what's a fractal? It's what you see behind me. Saturo says, you like JJK? No. Thank you, Jacob Malone, for the Mecha Chameleons. Fresh says, what's your favorite band? My favorite band is, I don't know. I mean, Radiohead is up there. Quack says, hi guys, remember me? I remember you. Marie says, I subscribe to you. Thank you. Joel says, the water bottle is a psyop. It is. Oliver says, cool setup, thank you. Nico says, the next person that sends $2 is a boy that likes you. Oh, that's pretty weird. Monk says, can we be gay? Why don't you send $2? Wild says, try Gary's mod. It's a fun game to play. It's on my list. Poodle says, what's your favorite game? Minecraft. Fungal says, favorite European country. I don't know why, but I have an urge to visit Serbia. The Glorified says, cat's eye is so ass. Yeah. Liam says, can we be friends? Sorry, no. Me name super chats. This is another inane comment. Enjoy. Thank you for your nothing special comment. I appreciate it. I mean, it kind of is special. Like, there's money attached to it. But other than that, it's pretty boring, I guess. Thank you. The Cinder says, what's your favorite season? Fall. Nazia says, do you like Minecraft Bed Wars? A little bit. Liam says, remember me? No. Roblox says, don't worry. The gays are at my door, not yours. Got it. Kitty says, are you okay, man? Yes. Quack super chats, I like you, eater. Did you mean water? I know you like water. Shrek says, are you going to finish that croissant? I don't have a croissant. Sophie says, do you like cats? I know. Will says, what game am my profile picture from? Real life. I am Hudson says, what is the basis of morality? Our consciences. Rebel says, what do you think about the Emoto bands? I haven't heard about that. Aura says, do you like Backrooms if you saw it? No, haven't seen it. Web Edit says, I like Bad Bunny. We are not the same. Darla says, guess my profile picture. My guess is that it's from Attack on Titan. Olivia super chats, what state you live in? Remember when you had short hair? I do remember that. Anyways, what state do you live in? Sorry, I don't disclose that. I keep that private for safety reasons. Eventually, though, maybe like in a month or so, I'll reveal my state. But not right now. Peanut says, what is the worst pornography genre? Rape. Darla says, it's Teto. Okay, I haven't heard of that. Satoru says, favorite movie? Eyes Wide Shut. Noah says, can I eat your meaty meat? No, you cannot. Sorry. B Twister super chats, have you heard of the 1999 Bridge Creek Moore EF5? No, I haven't. I'm guessing that's a tornado because there's an EF5 there. But yeah, and your profile picture, Twisters. I haven't heard about it. Soziistic says, never reveal your state. Your sense of mystery is encapsulating. That's a good point. That's a good point. Aura says, Backrooms is on Amazon, by the way. Maybe I'll buy. Jace says, do you like Funky It? No, I do not. Nico super chats, hee 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 hee. Okay. I don't know what you're laughing at, but okay. Cinder says, favorite show right now? The Snowplow Show. Green says, W video, W livestream. Thank you. 11 super chats, sorry I'm late, Dawn. Day 42 of asking you to show meat. I am not showing my penis. David says, hi. Hello, David. Aura says, what's your favorite video? I've been watching First Amendment audits recently. Dive says, what is your favorite place? I think the Redwoods are pretty cool. POV says, hi. Hello, POV. J Crew says, if you had to watch anime, what anime? It would have to be a Studio Ghibli movie. Lil Pluto says, can I pound you? No, you can't. By the way, we are going to be raiding a streamer in 5 minutes. We are going to be surprising a small streamer in 5 minutes. No, maybe says, what is your credit info? None of your business. Liam says, what games do you play? Lucid Blocks. Thank you, Tex, for the Mecha Chameleon. Eric says, hold up, wait, I just hit the jackpot. Awesome. Amateur says, is hate speech real? Yeah, it is. Noah says, rate my profile picture. What is that? I can't tell. Kesline says, who's your favorite YouTuber? Maybe Sal C1. C and M super chats. This is a great social experiment. Also, C plus M. I don't know what C plus M means. I can see it's in your username as well. C and M connection forever. I don't know what that means. But thank you for calling this great. Joel says, have you seen two Pre's audits? Yeah, he's a quorum silly guy. Blondie says, can you spin? I don't want to. Pieter says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's pretty stupid looking. Blue says, rate my... Oh, that's even worse. Jackson says, what's your favorite kind of big black diz? None. Warmy says, wins face reveal. I'm doing it now. Vaid says, what's your go-to bleed out spot? On top of Mount Everest. Levin says, this is my new main alt. My alt got banned. Oh, yeah, I remember. Blondie says, not even a twirl. Sorry, no. POV says, favorite red? What? The OG says, let me eat your parents. You're not doing that. Mr. Tongue says, could you put Geometry Dash on your list? I've already played it. Olivia says, you like socks with toe slots? No, that's really weird. Levin says, would you rather listen to Tool or have a tool shove up your I'd listen to it. Wooey says, Daddy, remember me? No, I do not. Thank you, Victor, for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Lil Pluto says, eat uranium. No. By the way, do you guys like Fortnite? I like Fortnite. Do you guys like it? Shorty says, how can I send super chats? Figure it out, dude. I don't know. Duck says, hi, father. Hello, Duck. Tara says, what is your favorite color? Gray. Saturo says, what's the first 3 numbers of your phone number? That would give out my location. I can't say that. Jace, thank you for the Mecha Chameleon gift. Peanut says, would you rather be Jewish or black? No comment. JK says, bro, still on. Cool. I had dinner and ran 2 miles. Awesome. By the way, in 3 minutes, we are going to raid a small streamer. Joel says, bros, comment farming with 5 minutes left. I am. Blue says, hiding under bed prank. That's stupid. Olive says, now that you recognize me, I feel like I can't write my true thoughts. You could always make an alt account. Derby says, are you Christian? I'm not Christian. George says, raid speed. That's so incredibly stupid and boring. Austin says, hi pal. Hello, Austin. Bob says, who is the raid? You'll find out when the timer ends. Livia says, what do you eat for dinner? The last thing I ate was an egg McMuffin. POV says, favorite blue? I like light blue. The first captain says, no, Fortnite is the worst game in my opinion. I have never played and never will play it. Okay, it's like how I view the Amazing Digital Circus. Bloxy says, yeah, hello, Bloxy. Viper says, I love Fortnite. Yeah, it's a cool game. By the way, the streamer we're going to be raiding is playing Fortnite. Liam says, yes, you like Fortnite? Okay. Warmy says, what's the last 3 numbers of your phone number? You're not getting that either. Sorry. Project says, sup, hello, Project. Liam says, W4, yeah, Fortnite's fun. Zahid says, do you like Muslims? I, do. Aura Boy says, what's your favorite minion? I like the tall one. POV says, favorite green? Lime green. Pieter says, I will subscribe because I love this live stream. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you telling me that you love it. Luke says, Fortnite is an alright game, I just don't play it. Okay. Agent says, my name is my Fortnite clan. Agent RGN, okay, that's cool. JK, I already read that. Derby says, are you religious? I'm not religious. Archer says, remember me? No. By the way, the streamer we're raiding is playing Fortnite. They're playing duos. Rand says, what do I do in a raid? You just chill, hang out, talk to the small streamer. Izzy says, hi, hello, Izzy. Mr. Tongue says, would you have $1 million in 1 year or $1 in a million years? The former. Austin says, rate my profile picture. Oh, a truck? That's pretty okay looking. Warmy says, guys, it's micro and soft. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Aura says, you mean Kevin? That's the guy. Yeah. JK says, weird. Okay. Snow says, love you, Don. Bye. See you, Snow. Lyrie says, yo, hello, Lyrie. Austin says, rate my profile picture. If I had to give it a number, I'd say 4. Pippi says, bro, not gonna lie, it looks like your brain is rotting. It probably is. Dink Archer says, you gay? No, I'm not. Thank you, Prod Hammy, for the Mecha Chameleon thing. The first captain says, remember when we get to the stream that Don is a trans activist. Feel free to come up with lies about me. By the way, when When we do the raid, be respectful, listen to their chat rules. Bob says, I love you, thank you. Lan says, Fortnite used to be my favorite game in Chapter 2. I loved it in 2018. Olive says, remember to spam inflammatory comments. No, don't do that. Ara says, I like Otto the Minion. Oh, I don't know him. Lil Pluto says, no what? Spy says, reveal your state for a $500 dono. I don't trust you, and I wouldn't do it anyways. Tongue says, poo bum. Okay. Alexander says, hi. Hello, Alexander. POV says, favorite purple. Just the standard one. Woo says, when is feet reveal? Never. Mr. Water says, drink me. Not right now. Alright, we are rating a streamer. In just a second, there's going to be a button at the bottom of the screen. Click that button to join the raid. We are going to surprise a small streamer. If you don't see the button, go to my channel post. I just made a post. Alright, see you in the raid, guys. See ya.